I am about to answer when the old man smiles suddenly and pats my shoulder gently and says that before I tell my story, why do I not listen to his first? Claude was an orphan from very young, growing up in a fortress, and a kind repair shop owner adopted him and trained him as a mechanic from childhood. The day he stepped into that shop, cautious and frightened, a little girl came screaming out of it wild with energy and hit him in the face with the thick book she was carrying. That was Ellie, the owner's daughter, and the book was an adventure log of a sky city written by a lord. Two children the same age met that day. The shop always had more work than hours. Young Claude would squat in a corner patiently repairing customers' things, while Ellie laughed and played wildly beside him, occasionally helping in ways that made everything worse. When the shop closed, they lit a kerosene lamp and read that adventure log. In their free hours, they lay by the rainy window and made up what life on a sky city was like. Better than 10 years on, the owner died, and the grown Claude had become a capable and even well-known mechanic. He inherited his adoptive father's shop and the responsibility of caring for Ellie, who had grown from a wild little girl into a quiet young woman. She stopped pulling the pranks she used to and helped with the work diligently instead. Then one day, changing a light bulb on tiptoe, he stumbled and she moved fast to hold the bulb in place. Their fingers came together on the glass, and when their eyes met, whatever went across was not distinguishable from the current. There was no grand drama and nothing earth-shattering about it. Two young people simply fell in love. Running the shop and raising children, the two of them held each other up for better than 10 years. Then one accident took both their children. Claude could still stand. Ellie was very nearly destroyed. Watching his wife go thinner and more haggard by the day, he was heartbroken and had nothing to offer her. Until one day, tidying the house, he found that adventure log again, and in it he found the dream the two of them had shared as children. When he came to her holding it, conjuring up pictures of the sky city out of those pages, her eyes lit up, which by then was a rare thing to see. The couple rallied and ran the repair shop diligently every day. And while Claude was busy in the shop, he watched Ellie bring home an orphan who had been wandering the fortress, a small boy in rags who still held his head up. Claude waved a wrench at him, meaning to frighten him, and the boy stepped on his foot instead and made him yelp. And even as a well-known mechanic, and even working diligently for better than 10 years, he never saved enough to buy a mobile city, never mind convert one into a sky city. The two of them gradually grew old and their hair turned gray. That night, looking at a wife who was dying of illness, and at the adventure log in her hands, his eyes were full of guilt. She smiled at him, and closed the log and took his hand gently and shook her head. Her gentle eyes seemed to be smiling, as though she wanted to say something. When he asked, a hint of mischief went through them, and she gave a small laugh and shook her head again. Claude sat in front of a closed repair shop afterward with no idea what to do. There was movement beside him, and he looked up and Gray was holding the adventure log out to him. The uninteresting little boy had long since become an uninteresting adult, and kept his face perfectly straight while he handed it over. Claude opened it slowly and found that new content had been added to it. It was the small details of their life together, recorded by his wife across decades, meeting, understanding each other, holding each other up, falling in love. He was crying before he registered that he was, and when he turned to the last page, one sentence was written there in a large, clear hand, telling him he was the best adventure of her life. After a long while, he got hold of himself, closed the log, pulled himself together, and stood up to look at Gray. The two of them exchanged one glance and nodded gently. The repair shop opened again, and the old man and the young man went back to work. The story of Claude and Ellie gradually spread across the basin area. Then one day, closing up, he found several fortress residents walking toward him. A few units of iron ore, a wrench, a small metal plate. One after another, they handed him things and left him completely bewildered. In the days after that, more and more people came to the repair shop. Steam pipes, chimneys, mechanical parts, and it kept arriving in front of the door until it had piled into a small mountain. Bounty hunters, survivor convoys, mobile city lords. With the collective effort of the entire basin area, a Sky Mobile city was astonishingly put together across better than 10 years. Claude became a lord, Gray became his butler, and he named the Sky City Adventure and moved his and his wife's small house onto its lower level and started a new journey out of it. That is wonderful, I say, and I mean every syllable of it. He strokes the adventure log carefully with his eyes full of somewhere else. As I can see, he will go on adventuring in this world until he returns to his Ellie's side. With a roar, Adventure starts up and begins a patrol around the fortress. I stand at the railing with the wind pulling my hair apart and my eyes full of light. Wilderness, lakes, mountains, forests. Everything on the ground is laid out in full view at once, and it takes the breath out of me. Claude is beside me, the old lord gripping the railing hard, watching the ground go by with me. Then he asks loudly whether, since his story is finished, what about mine? I think about it for a moment and smile at him gently and tell him mine is just beginning. Even back aboard tomorrow, I have not entirely come back to myself. Mu tells me to stop being so sentimental and that it is time to get back to work. I sigh and tell him I know, and that I had finally managed to sink into the atmosphere and he should not just cut me off like that when it is such a rare thing. Then I take stock of what the Rotting Land trip actually produced: a level 1 frost cannon, a level 1 spore armor blueprint for city components, level 1 fruit tree seeds, the sun apple, and a level 1 Gale rocket launcher blueprint. Against the standard level 1 light armor project that comes with the workshop, building spore armor takes 600 units of iron ore, which is double, and correspondingly the spore armor's defense is far better. From the blueprint image, it resembles a mushroom cap and is pale yellow, and its accompanying effect absorbs 15% of bullet and shell impact, which cuts the odds of armor damage. And the level 1 fruit tree seed is far past an ordinary apple tree, since an ordinary one takes 3 to 6 years from planting to fruit, while a sun apple takes 1 month and can then be harvested every 2 weeks. I have 1 bag holding 30 seeds and I plan to put them in the upper district's garden, where the sunlight is best, and I will need to assign people to tend them. And finally, the one that surprised me most. The panel names it an individual combat Gale rocket launcher at item level 1. Its additional effects are 10% more damage against buildings and vehicles, and 330 feet of extra range, and it crafts at 80 units of level 1 iron ore. Its power sits second only to the level 1 frost cannon, which makes it a genuinely powerful weapon on a mobile city. Its effects are very good since it works for an assault and works against another city, and the range bonus is icing. The downside is that one launcher takes a full 80 units of iron ore. That is far more expensive than a Falcon assault rifle, and its rockets take 10 units of iron ore and 2 of gunpowder each. That gives me a headache on the spot. This thing is excellent and no ordinary person can afford it, because building a few and making some rockets burns hundreds of units of ore before you have finished counting. It seems I need to find a way to get considerably more iron ore, I mutter. Third, there are the spoils the ant people dropped over 3 days. Better than 6,300 crystal coins, 235 units of iron ore, 158 of coal, 432 of cloth, 35 common grade weapons, daggers and machetes and repeating crossbows, and 5 common blueprints, and 1 elite ant person dropped a bag of level 1 crop seed. The panel gives it as Cloud Dream cotton seed at item level 1, with additional effects of growing 2 weeks after planting and a 3% yield bonus. Picking that bag up, I am still slightly incredulous about it. What a find. Cotton has an enormous range of uses. It is a natural fiber crop that turns into muslin for clothing and towels and bed sheets, or into canvas and rope and gauze bandages, provided I can collect the blueprints for those things. More importantly, cottonseed presses for oil, and the meal left afterwards works as feed or fertilizer, and inferior as it is to lard or vegetable oil. Having it beats not having it. Since cotton wants ample sun and water, I decide to plant it alongside the apple seeds up top. Beyond the cotton, the most valuable thing in the spoils is probably that common cola blueprint. With the accounting done, I start deploying. First, tomorrow has to be repaired, and that is naturally Immu's work. Days of fighting have left this city covered in scars, its hull and armored tracks studded with arrows and bullet holes from the ant people. Because yes, some ant people carry firearms, and tomorrow was actually shelled by them as well. He states his requirements, which are 10 people assigned to him and 2,000 crystal coins to buy repair parts in the market. I agree without hesitating and ask how long the repairs take. Cleaning the tire tracks, dismantling and replacing damaged sections of the outer shell, plus routine troubleshooting, he says, working his chin a moment before answering, and it will probably take about a week. I think about it and shake my head. No, that is too long. Finish inside 3 days, because we need to leave quickly. That is not impatience for its own sake. The epic entry said the Wasteland area is destroyed in 3 months, and under a deadline like that, spending a week on repairs is simply too luxurious. Then I assigned him people. The past few days genuinely count as high intensity, since the crew ran in 3 shifts hunting ant people in their strongholds and hitting them hard every single day. After it, everyone is exhausted in body and mind. Half of them are wounded, and 3 are seriously hurt. The first thing I did on returning to Roland Fortress was go to the market for first aid medicine and bandages. Out here, medical supplies cost far more than anyone would guess, and I spent better than 1,500 crystal coins without slowing down. I assign 1 person to the wounded and hand every remaining hand to Immu to deploy, including Dangbin and Old Jew. While tomorrow gets busy, I walk toward the market planning to open a shop and make more money. I originally held better than 6,000 crystal coins, and 1,500 and change went on medicine, and 2,000 went to Immu for repairs, so half of it is gone already. What is left is nowhere near enough to buy supplies. Passing the market's notice board, I see prices have gone up. Fresh water has moved from 3 crystal coins to 5, and iron ore from 5 to 8, and coal and fuel have both edged up as well. I work out why immediately, because the intelligence said Roland Fortress's mining area is nearing depletion and the freshwater lake near it is very nearly gone. Looking around the place, I shake my head gently. Nobody would guess that a fortress standing this firm in the wasteland is not monolithic at all, and is in fact riddled with conflict inside. I had originally planned to sell some fresh water to supplement the household income, since tomorrow still stores better than 2,300 units. Then a tour of the market shows me that ordinary shops are not permitted to sell it, and only Roland Fortress officially may. Asking further, I learned that the freshwater lake belongs to the fortress. I am not surprised by that. Running a fortress of better than 2,000 people is very expensive. Supporting the combat personnel who guard it, hiring staff to keep it running, putting money into the elderly and the children who have nobody, crafting the cannons and firearms that protect it, and the bullets and shells they eat. Every one of those wants money. A freshwater monopoly is a good way to generate it, and the residents have no complaint about it and actively maintain it, because the fortress gives them a safe place to live along with vegetables and grain and fruit, which out here is already very good. I cannot sell fresh water, and I can sell cola, and Blue Heart potato seed, and Falcon assault rifles, and Gale rocket launchers, and level 1 off-road vehicles. In the Roland Fortress market, a lone operator like a bounty hunter or a lone wolf selling a handful of things faces no requirements at all. Selling in quantity means applying for a shop. An individual or shopkeeper, you pay a 10% tax, which is normal enough given that the fortress provides the safe environment that trading happens in. Opening a shop wants a 2,000 crystal coin deposit and a minimum 3-month rental of 500 a month. While I am hesitating over that, Imha comes past leading a patrol of the market. Once she understands the situation, she arranges the best located shop in the whole market for me and waives the deposit and the rent. I thank her sincerely and tell her she has genuinely helped me a great deal this time. She waves it off gently and smiles and says it is nothing. With the shop ready, I go back aboard and produce 100 bottles of cola in the workshop, then drive it over and launch my territory's main business. Cola at 8 crystal coins a bottle, a Falcon assault rifle at 500 crystal coins, or 60 units of iron ore for custom processing, a Gale rocket launcher at 700 crystal coins, or 100 units of iron ore for custom processing, Blue Heart potato seed at 500 a pack, a level 1 off-road vehicle at 2,000. That done, I happen to look over at tomorrow in the distance and watch everyone working on the repairs, and an idea arrives. What if I let old Jew mind the shop, and I go and experience the repair work myself? Of course, Mu says he would be very welcome to. He adjusts his glasses when he hears the idea and asks with real interest what kind of repair work I plan to do. I think about it and tell him it is best to experience it from top to bottom. All right, he says, nodding repeatedly, and leads me to the warehouse. On the way, he asks casually whether I am not just doing this on a whim. I shake my head and tell him not to worry, that I will not give up halfway. A few minutes later, I am handed a set of equipment. First, a protective work uniform of thick canvas and fire-resistant fiber with metal rivets holding the key areas, mainly dark gray and dirt-resistant. It carries fluorescent marks front and back so mechanics can find each other's positions in dim spaces. It is a multi-pocket design with tool slots and belt hooks for wrenches and screwdrivers, and its sleeves detach for different jobs. Then a pair of fully enclosed oil-resistant rubber gloves along with alloy knee and elbow pads. Finally, a welding mask against the light and the sparks, and high-top engineering boots with anti-slip serrated soles. The whole set is filthy. Tomorrow never bought mechanic equipment, and what Mu's team uses was left behind by the previous lord. And filthy as it is sturdy and it lasts. Under his direction, I start my first task, repairing tomorrow's tire tracks. The monsters out here are genuinely hardcore, since they know how to use knives and guns and they employ tactics. Fighting in the rotting land, the ant people fired at us frantically with firearms, and some of them used rocket launchers and artillery. The most outrageous part is that they also lay mines. Fortunately, every one of those weapons was ordinary grade, because otherwise tomorrow might not have stood it. What I have to do is replace the broken track plate in front of me. On a behemoth that crosses wilderness for a living, a track plate is comparable in size to a blackboard. I pick up a wrench and work the cup-sized bolts open with genuine effort, while a great deal of hydraulic oil sprays out of the broken lines in the plate. The smell is scorching mixed with vulcanized rubber. Once every bolt is out, the actual removal and replacement goes to the mechanical arm on deck, because the thing is far too heavy for me to shift alone. Immu starts the arm with a roar, and on my signal it takes the damaged plate off. Then I take the new line from a companion's hands and start fitting it. As each plate goes on, he starts the auxiliary engine and runs a pressure test, and tomorrow's chassis puts out a low hum like a whale singing. Only when the tachometer needle finally settles in the green does he nod at everyone and say, "That is it." A few of us exchange looks and then sit straight down on the ground with a collective breath. Am I tired already, he asks, adjusting his glasses. Because this is only the beginning. Then he pulls his oil-stained gloves on and draws a check mark on the inside of the track to indicate the repair was successful. Look closely at the inside of that track and it is covered in dense check marks and crosses going back years. After that, we take the lift platform back to the deck and start the second task, which is dismantling the city armor plates. Tomorrow carries ordinary city armor that the old lord never once replaced. Most of the plates are severely damaged now with their edges a dark reddish brown of rust, as though something with teeth had been at them. Since tomorrow is about to be fitted with level 1 city armor, every existing plate has to come off. None of that is done by hand, since mechanical arms and cranes handle it easily, and doing it manually would take approximately forever. The arm comes up to a plate and deploys a hot melt drill and a brass welding torch. The drill goes through the plate and the torch throws blue-white flame and burns the rusted bolts white hot. Once the temperature has dropped, I put on thick leather gloves and go at it violently with a wrench. Broken bolt heads drop onto the deck as lightly as spent casings out of a pistol. As each old plate comes free, the crane lifts it and sends it below to be melted back into iron ore for recycling. Not much comes out of a plate, and for a level 1 city just starting out, every scrap worth recovering is worth recovering. Once I have had a while at that, he arranges the next task immediately, which is inspecting the steam pipelines. If steel is a mobile city's muscle and tendon, the steam lines are its blood vessels and nerves. Those lines run through the entire city carrying high-pressure steam under mechanical power, which is what drives everything the city does daily, and their condition affects every breath the steel animal takes. He hands me a retractable steam stethoscope for it, and my task is simple, which is to set it against each line and listen. A steady ticking sound means the line is healthy. A sharp hissing means there is a leak somewhere, which means a great deal of sweaty work. Beyond that, I have to look carefully at every joint and at how far the bolts have rusted and make my own call on replacement. And if a line is too dirty, it wants cleaning. After better than a dozen pipelines I am already soaked through, and I turn and ask him whether that is nearly it. He shakes his head. I have only checked the lines in this one area, he says, and a mobile city holds hundreds or even thousands of them. Since this is a rare full overhaul, we naturally check everything beginning to end. I make a noise at that. Fortunately, he does not keep making things difficult for his lord, and takes me instead to the last task, which is inspection and troubleshooting in the lower power engine area. As the steel heart of the city, that space holds the boiler compartment, the steam superpressure compartment, the main drive shaft, the differential gear matrix, the condensation recovery system, and if any one of those fails or stops, the city has a problem. This time I cannot go in personally at all. The dense array of gauges and valves in front of me leaves me completely at a loss, so I follow behind him obediently and inspect what he tells me to inspect. By the end of the day, I have changed back into my own clothes, and I am comprehensively finished. I finally understand, I tell him, breathing hard. Compared to inspection and troubleshooting, I prefer running a shop. He nods slightly and says I have far more perseverance than most lords, and that I actually stuck with it. In fact, I add, still breathing hard, I keep feeling he assigned me the heaviest work available. I ask whether he is holding a grudge and retaliating because I did not take him up to the Sky City. He shakes his head gently and adjusts his glasses and asks how that could possibly be. Old Jew, who has been minding the shop, is back by now, and he has brought 20 new recruits with him. Along with opening the shop, I had put up a recruitment notice, and the interviewing naturally went to him. The level 1 items on sale in that shop indirectly advertised exactly how strong Tomorrow currently is. While we were docked for repairs, a great many residents saw the frost cannon sitting on our deck, so a great many people signed up. The first job those 20 get is joining Immu on the repairs. To my surprise, Li Jin and Ro Jian turn up too. Asking around, I learn they have both opened shops in the market as well, and have even bought my level 1 rocket launcher. Then I hand them the 2 bags of blue heart potato seed I promised earlier, and when they go to pay, I wave it off. For me, the cost of a bag of that seed is 1 blue heart potato. Rather than take money, I would rather do them a favor. Having thanked me and put the seed away, neither of them is in a hurry to leave, and they stay put making small talk with their eyes flickering and something visibly unsaid behind it. What is it? I ask, puzzled, and whether there is something else. Asking carefully leaves me somewhere between helpless and amused, because these two have their eyes on my fruit trees and my cotton seed. As lords, they naturally understand what a level 1 crop is worth, since it means their city has a fruit to eat in future. As for cotton, that speaks for itself. I think about it and nod. I have 30 sun apple seeds in total, so giving a few away is no great matter, and I have considerably more cotton seeds than that, hundreds of them. After some negotiating, I sell them both types for 2,000 crystal coins. That price makes both their faces do something complicated, since 2,000 buys 3 or 4 bags of ordinary level 1 crop seed. And in all fairness, level 1 fruit tree seed is genuinely rare. Once it matures and fruits, they can take seed off it forever and replant, or sell seed and recoup the whole outlay. and cotton is a high-value level 1 crop in its own right. All told, acceptable. With 20 more hands helping, tomorrow's repairs speed up sharply and finish inside 3 days. I tally the shop's 3-day earnings. Better than 16,000 crystal coins, and better than 1,900 units of iron ore. The opening day accounted for more than half of it, with traffic dropping off sharply across the other two. In that time, I spend 600 units of iron ore on the spore armor, and another 500 total upgrading the propulsion tracks and the power wheel set. The installation and replacement work naturally goes to move, and with manpower suddenly abundant, it moves fast and is already finished. I also craft 6 Gale rocket launchers and 30 rockets, and then I discover that my once abundant iron ore has instantly evaporated. This is only the beginning, I say, genuinely startled by it. Under my plan, I still intend to craft 10 more Falcon assault rifles and 4 level 1 off-road vehicles. I need enough bullets and shells and rockets stocked, and I want a reserve of ore held back for emergencies. Rough arithmetic puts me at needing at least 2,500 more units. At Roland Fortress market prices, that is 20,000 crystal coins. Thinking about it, I shake my head, because at current prices buying ore in quantity is uneconomical. I have an intelligence system, so finding ore in mines out in the wild remains very easy for me. So I buy 500 units for emergencies and leave it there. To my regret, there is no frost ore on sale in the market at all. I had planned to make more frost cannon shells, and if I could source a frost crystal, I wanted to build a second frost cannon outright, since I have already seen personally what a level 1 cannon does. After that, I buy a large quantity of coal and feed it in until tomorrow's energy is back at the 60% safety line. Buy fruit and vegetables as usual, along with daily necessities and furniture for the new residents who have moved aboard. Looking at the city in front of me, something like pride comes up on its own. Tomorrow currently holds 40 to 50 people and owns Falcon assault rifles and Gale rocket launchers. It holds 4 level 1 crops and a level 1 off-road vehicle, has upgraded 3 level 1 city components, and carries a level 1 cannon. And it holds a level 2 item, the city camouflage, all of which happened in about half a month. With that thought finished, I start arranging the new recruits, and I offer them 2 choices. Either serve as ordinary residents doing maintenance, working the fields, or the fruit trees or the cotton, working the lower power room, or cleaning the city, or become combat personnel on better treatment than ordinary residents, responsible for dangerous work outside, and for keeping order daily. Every one of them chooses, and the overwhelming majority go for ordinary residents since the treatment is slightly worse, and the work is easy and carries no danger. With that settled, my brows come down slightly. Growth in strength and growth in headcount are good things, and our material supply is still sitting at the level it was. There are vegetables and fruit in the warehouse, and divided among 40 to 50 people they are very little, and they store badly and generally have to be eaten inside a week. What I want is self-sufficiency aboard in vegetables, fruit, meat, and eggs, preferably in level 1 crops. Collecting level 1 crops is nothing like as easy as it sounds, and only happens a step at a time. As for ordinary poultry for meat and eggs, Roland Fortress does sell it, and the price is extremely high. I have bought some before, and ordinary poultry takes a long time to raise and wants fresh water and fodder and space. That is about it, I mutter. Let us look at the intelligence and plan the next route. With repairs and troubleshooting done, tomorrow needs to sail again, and there is now under 3 months left. The new round has refreshed, and this time it has produced 1 common, 1 excellent, 2 rare, 2 outstanding, and 1 epic. 12 miles southwest of Roland Fortress, a pack of steel-bladed hyenas is roaming and foraging, and that is common. On the northeastern edge of the rotting land, there is an undiscovered small oil field, and that is excellent. Last night, the pioneer easily defeated a predatory city and took its population, its resources, and the projects in its production workshop, and the spoils included a level 2 item, which is rare. In the Wasteland area, a monster civilization has gradually risen and is becoming a huge threat to humanity. Also rare. Deep in Thunder Canyon, a bounty hunter has unexpectedly obtained a trophy, which is a level 1 flying vehicle, and he is currently worried because he cannot get it out, and that is outstanding. In 3 days, the level 1 wild boss foreman, Jeremy, will descend on Gross Mine, and it will drop a mine storeroom key. That storeroom holds a level 1 mobile city promotion blueprint, and collecting the materials that blueprint requires promotes a mobile city to level 2, which is also outstanding. And the 7th is still refreshing, and it is epic. I work my chin and start analyzing. First, 12 miles southwest of the fortress there is a pack of steel-bladed hyenas. Those are level 1 elite monsters whose bodies are incredibly tough and covered in several long twisted steel blades. They like to charge a target in a group and cut it to pieces with the blades on their own bodies, and their charging speed is extremely fast, which makes them a nightmare out here. Even mobile cities fear them because their jumping ability is extreme. If cannons and machine guns cannot handle them, they are on your deck in seconds, and after that it stops being a gunnery problem. Common as it is, that is still valuable, I say, nodding lightly. When tomorrow leaves this fortress, it avoids going southwest. Next, the second, an undiscovered small oil field. Oil fields are rare resources out in the wild, since the crude they produce processes into fuel in the workshop, and fuel is the most important energy source a mobile city has. And oil can also be processed into plastic, provided I hold the blueprints for plastic. The third surprises me somewhat. This pioneer previously beat 2 mobile cities at once and has now easily beaten a predatory city, I murmur, and its strength appears to have gone up sharply again. What surprises me more is that it captured a level 2 item, since for a level 1 city the improvement from one of those is enormous, and I am extremely curious about what it was. The fourth, a monster civilization has risen. There are countless monsters out here, some of them living in groups in human form, and some of those can develop into a monster civilization. Generally speaking, the strength of a monster civilization is extremely terrifying. I am not too concerned about it, since tomorrow has just started and simply does not have the strength to deal with anything at that scale. The fifth, deep in Thunder Canyon, a bounty hunter has come into a level 1 flying vehicle. A level 1 flying vehicle. Something fanatical goes through my eyes at that, because the uses of one are too numerous to list, since it not only scouts ahead but can carry machine guns and bombs and pound an enemy through a fight. And the sixth puts my heart into my throat. Another wild boss has appeared. Gross Mine, which by the sound of it is where Azure nearly died. And more importantly, the Gross Mine storeroom holds a level 1 city promotion blueprint. Something solemn arrives in my eyes. However, this has to be done. I have to get that. And at tomorrow's current strength, I cannot take a large, heavily guarded monster resource point plus a wild boss. I do what I did before, which is unite with Azure and the Conqueror, and hit it 3-handed. I can give up the level 2 item this wild boss drops. I absolutely cannot give up that key, because the benefits of promotion are too large. First, a level 2 mobile city holds 5 times the space of a level 1, which means more living space, more farmland, support for a larger population, and it stores more resources and carries far better endurance. Second, although a level 1 city can carry and use level 2 items, its production workshop cannot unlock and produce them, and only promotion to level 2 unlocks production permissions for level 2 items, which is exactly like leveling up in a game. The 7th epic entry still needs waiting on as always. I nod at the round anyway, because I acknowledge what this epic system is worth, and it is genuinely useful. Then I make my decisions fast. First I go to Thunder Canyon and take that level 1 flying vehicle off the bounty hunter. Then I go to the Rotting Land and pull that small oil field. And after that I unite with Azure and the Conqueror and hit Gross Mine. 10 minutes later, Tomorrow roars into motion, passes out through the open giant gate of Roland Fortress, and heads for Thunder Canyon. Finally found it. Up on the lookout tower, I put the binoculars down and wipe my forehead. Because by now we are deep in Thunder Canyon and have been searching a long time. And what we came for is not far ahead. That bounty hunter and his off-road vehicle and the level 1 flying vehicle parked beside it. Looking closer, it is a small combat helicopter with a rather retro design. By appearance, it is not remotely advanced, built entirely of wood and metal panel with only the main rotor and the tail rotor being pure metal. It carries 2 machine guns and has a bomb bay, and space aboard is limited to 2 people. Crude as it is, out here it is genuinely remarkable, and the bounty hunter is visibly startled to see a mobile city bearing down on him, and mutters that he genuinely does not know whether he is lucky or unlucky. I take my people down on the lift platform and start talking to him. Out here, some powerful lone wolf survivors choose to become bounty hunters. They buy vehicles, equip themselves with level 1 weapons or even machine guns, and go hunting monsters across the wasteland. The advantage of working solo is that everything a monster drops belongs to you. If level 1 crop seed or a level 1 blueprint drops, the profit is enormous, which is why a great many people go into the profession. I glance at the combat helicopter, think a moment, and ask the question I actually care about, which is how he got hold of it. He tells me. This trip he went deep into Thunder Canyon to find and kill wandering elite monsters and collect what they dropped. While he was driving around looking for prey, he heard something in the sky, and opening his window and peering out, he saw a helicopter wobbling toward him, evidently malfunctioning during a reconnaissance run. Not long after, it made an emergency landing. He followed it quietly, and when the cockpit opened he stopped dead, because the pilot was a goblin. As that goblin frowned and pulled out a wrench to start repairs, the bounty hunter shot it dead. Acquiring a flying vehicle was a pleasant surprise, and now he has a significant problem, because he is driving an off-road vehicle and simply cannot take a helicopter back to town to sell. And waiting indefinitely is not an option either, because this is deep in Thunder Canyon where wandering monsters turn up regularly, and sometimes in groups. And coincidentally, Tomorrow arrived at that exact moment. A goblin pilot, I say, surprised. I know the monsters out here have intelligence, and it cannot be absurd enough to run to flying a helicopter. Seeing that I do not believe him, He simply walks me to the goblin's corpse, and after I have seen the pilot's uniform and the helmet on it, I believe him. And in the middle of my confusion, I remember something and my stomach drops. This round of intelligence said a monster civilization has risen in the Wasteland area. This goblin and its helicopter could be from that civilization. And exactly how terrifying is a monster civilization that builds helicopters? Thinking about it makes my scalp crawl. Then the bounty hunter looks at me and asks whether I want a Rolls Royce. I make a noise at him. Under my astonished stare, he pulls a design blueprint out of the inside of his coat, which is exactly what that goblin pilot dropped. A Rolls-Royce Phantom blueprint. At item level normal, additional effect none. Crafting at 150 units of level 1 iron ore and 10 units of car parts. I simply stop. Killing a goblin drops a luxury car blueprint, I say, and ask what kind of luck this man is carrying. He rubs the back of his neck and says he does not know, that he is always very lucky. I take it out of his hand and fall into genuine contemplation. I could drive a Rolls-Royce in the Wasteland apocalypse, and my life is finally looking up. Then I look at it properly, and a luxury car is not practical out here at all, because it eats fuel and wants constant maintenance. Another 50 units of ore on top would build a level 1 off-road vehicle instead. I shake my head immediately and tell him no. Then I look at the helicopter. The panel gives it as a Goblin combat helicopter at item level 1, additional effect speed up 10%. It crafts at 150 units of level 1 iron ore and 10 units of level 1 aerial vehicle parts. A note adds that the workshop does not hold its blueprint, so it cannot be manufactured. For a mobile city, a flying vehicle is very valuable, since it performs reconnaissance and aerial fire support, and the city's deck serves as its parking and refueling. The two of them together produce results neither manages alone. In the end, he packages the helicopter along with the blueprint and sells me both for 3,000 crystal coins. 3,000 off one trip is a fine profit, and he plans to relax for the rest of it. In fact, I could also simply have killed him and taken it, and at tomorrow's current size, there is no need for that. If I were going to move on somebody, it would have to be for a whole row of helicopters at minimum. Pleasure working with you, I tell him and shake his hand and get ready to leave. He hesitates and then speaks. Wait. I seem like a good man, he says, not trying to rob him out in a desolate place like this, and he will give me a blueprint he found in the canyon as well. I turn back, surprised, and he pulls another one out of the inside of his coat. A streamlined diving suit at item level normal, additional effect none, crafting at 50 units of level 1 cloth. My eyes light up on the spot. For a bounty hunter, that is an ordinary blueprint that does nothing for his strength and sells for a few hundred crystal coins at best. For a mobile city, the benefit is immense, since it will certainly matter for sea travel later, and sometimes an item like that simply cannot be found at all. I thank him and take it. Back on deck, I take both blueprints out of my coat and look at them. The diving suit is only normal quality, and it is already a very good functional item. The Rolls-Royce is not practical, and it can go into the workshop as a collection piece. Honestly, I rather like the feeling of collecting blueprints, the same way players collect equipment and item illustrations in an online game. The crucial difference is that here you can actually build the things in the illustrations. So I make a plan. In future, whenever I have crystal coins spare, I collect more blueprints, and even if I never use them, having them arranged neatly in the workshop is pleasing to look at. Then I touch my pocket sadly, because after this round of spending, my crystal coins are very nearly gone again. After that, I use the lift platform to bring the goblin helicopter up onto the deck and put Immu on maintenance. He inspects it and finds only that the bolts at the propeller are loose and that tightening them makes it flyable. Studying it carefully, the two of us discover it is surprisingly easy to operate. Its dashboard is far simpler than a human machine's and takes in at a glance, and the operating system amounts to a collective stick, a cyclic stick, rudder pedals, and a throttle. I even find a goblin beginner's tutorial guide sitting in the cockpit. Under careful handling, the thing actually flies. Given how crudely it is built, it looks throughout the flight like it may come apart at any second. I take it around low over the ground a few circuits and then bring it back onto the upper deck. While I am at it, I check its firepower specifically, and it carries 2 machine guns, one on each wing, with 6 bombs in the bomb bay. As a level 1 vehicle, it is fast and its construction is very weak, which makes it easy for a bullet to go through the fuel tank and set the whole thing burning. For goblins, though, that is already a fairly good air force. After that, I order tomorrow toward the rotting land to take that small oil field. Since an oil field is underground and completely invisible from the surface, all I can do is send Immu out with the old oil exploration equipment from the warehouse to survey the area. Once the location is confirmed, a gap opens in tomorrow's underside, and an old automated drill extends and turns slowly into the surface. The hydraulic drill roars and tears through the rock layers and finally reaches the reservoir. An oil line runs down through the drill and starts siphoning, and thick crude pumps up into the city's storage tanks. The field being small, the work is finished in half an hour. I tally it. 231 units of crude oil, Crude processes into fuel in the workshop, and fuel is the best resource for replenishing a city's energy. And beyond that, off-road vehicles and goblin helicopters both run on it. Considering that tomorrow may unlock plastic projects later, and that plastic manufacture wants crude, considering our energy is currently inside the safety line, I simply do not process any of it and store the lot. After that, I set off back to Roland Fortress to prepare the urgent thing, which is attacking Gro's mine. Azure and the Conqueror are in the fortress doing repairs and preparation, so I find Li Jin and Rogiam quickly and pass on the news. Learning that another wild boss has appeared, both of them are surprised, and then their eyes go fervent immediately, because both of them have seen what a wild boss drops. This time we still cooperate fully, exactly as before, I tell them, and watching them nod, something relieved goes through me. It is genuinely fortunate that both of them are here and that we have worked together once already and can still trust each other, because tomorrow alone could not take Gro's mine, never mind the city promotion blueprint. Rogiam asks where Gro's mine actually is, and whether either of us has information on it. I look at Li Jin, because the intelligence gave me the wild boss's appearance and not the location, and only Azure, which was beaten there once, knows where it is and what guards it. And at the mention of Gro's mine, Li Jin's face does something you normally only see on a man who has recently been chased by dogs. By his account, Gro's mine sits 110 miles northwest of Roland Fortress. It is a sizable mountain range, rich in mineral resources, and the monsters holding it are goblins. Goblins, I say, surprised. Out here, goblins are the most common level 1 monster there is. Short and cunning and timid, green-skinned with narrow red eyes, generally reckoned the weakest thing walking and easy to kill. Their drops are very poor as well, mostly 1 or 2 crystal coins or nothing at all, and if you are lucky, some iron ore and cloth. Rogiam says, half skeptical that goblins alone did that much damage to Azure. Li Jin shakes his head fast and says none of us knows how outrageous the goblins there are, and tells us to listen carefully. When Azure first found Gro's mine, everyone aboard was delighted, because a single mine produces several times what a mining field does, and can even carry a series of rare veins and more precious crystals as associated minerals. And when they discovered the guards were only goblins, they were overjoyed, since against snake men or boar men, goblins are simply insignificant. Out in the wild, an accident can arrive at any hour, and another mobile city might find the same mine. So Azure mobilized its combat personnel quickly and went at it to avoid a drawn-out complication. And the moment the fighting started, every one of them knew something was wrong. The goblins of Gro's mine gathered fast and deployed artillery and heavy machine guns and counterattacked. They had built not only mine tunnels through that mountain, but a large number of trenches and bunkers and other defensive works. They were well trained and numerous, with artillery and heavy machine guns beyond counting, and a dense net of fire swept over Azure in one moment. They even sent rows of helicopters to strafe and bomb Azure's deck, and when a helicopter was shot down, the goblin flying it would bravely put it into Azure. For a while it felt to the people aboard as though the entire mountain was firing at them. Their own heavy machine guns and artillery did limited damage, because most of the goblins were down in trenches and bunkers, and their guns were emplaced high up. And what terrified Azure most was that the goblins also brought out 2 level 1 cannons. Li Jin ordered an immediate retreat, and 1 level 1 shell still landed on Azure and put a shudder through the whole city. They barely got clear. The review afterwards showed the city severely damaged with heavy casualties, and Li Jin himself was seriously injured and unconscious at the time. Even recovered, he still carries the fear when he talks about it. Rogiam and I exchange a look with something solemn arriving in both of us, because neither of us expected Gro's mine's defenses to be that outrageous. It seems we need to plan this carefully, he sighs. So that is where this goblin helicopter came from, I realize out loud. Then I think a moment and put forward a suggestion. Tomorrow has a helicopter, I tell them, and I can send it out to scout the mine, work out where their bunkers and artillery are emplaced, and take part in the fighting. Both of them are instantly surprised and ask whether I actually have a helicopter now. The two of them exchange a look with their eyes flickering. Having been my allies once, their mood at this moment is complicated. They are simultaneously afraid I will be shortchanged and afraid I will walk off with a fortune. Tomorrow now holds a level 1 cannon, a level 1 rocket launcher, a level 2 city camouflage, and a level 2 city camouflage. It has expanded its personnel and upgraded 2 city components, and its strength has climbed fast. Without either of them quite noticing it, Tomorrow has become the strongest party in the 3-city alliance. Add that it initiated this alliance and supplied the wild boss information, and it holds too many advantages at once. And if... I see straight through what they are thinking, and add something immediately. Do not worry, I tell them, because I will not monopolize the level 2 item this wild boss drops, and everyone can bid on it with crystal coins. Both of them let a breath out, and then I add one more sentence. However, on everything else that drops, I have priority of selection. Fine, Rogiam answers without hesitating. Li Jin hesitates a moment and then nods too. From where I am standing, I can give up the level 2 item this time, and I absolutely have to have that storeroom key. If the 3-city alliance broke apart over a level 2 item, and we consequently failed to kill the wild boss and get the key, I would take a genuinely enormous loss. Then I think a little further, and add one more thing. Furthermore, if any frost ore comes out of that mine, all of it belongs to me. Both of them nod at that, since set beside a level 2 item, the concession cost them nothing. Discussing the plan, preparing supplies, organizing combat personnel. After a run of intense preparation, 3 mobile cities set sail together at dawn. To improve firepower, I spent another 400 units of iron ore building, 2 more ordinary cannons, and working on the principle that no wool should go unplucked. Rogeom and I both have Li Jin process, 2 level 1 heavy machine guns for us. As we leave, I look back at Roland Fortress behind us. Last night I happened to learn something, which is that the Lord's condition has worsened, and he has fallen completely into a coma. The 2 factions he had been holding down have started to move, and undercurrents are already running through the whole fortress, and even ordinary residents have caught the atmosphere and started to fear for themselves. Thinking about that, I look up. The sky is unnaturally dark, lead-gray cloud pressing extremely low, very nearly hanging on the fortress itself and making it look grimmer still. I sigh at it with genuine feeling. A storm really is brewing. We are here. Seeing Gro's mine come into view, I nod gently on the watchtower. In fact, as a lord, I go up that tower considerably more often than the lookout does. It is tomorrow's best vantage point, and binoculars make several miles of country clear at a glance. Occasionally, there is a good wind up there. Looking out, the whole of Gro's mine has sparse vegetation, with scattered rubble and slag filling the ravines. The mountain is full of mine tunnels large and small and intricate, and ore transport tracks climb the slopes like vines. Right now, a great many goblins are busy, wearing hard hats and white vests and swinging pickaxes. Sensing movement in the distance, they perk their ears up warily, and once they see 3 mobile cities clearly, they react fast, putting the picks down and picking up weapons. One of them mutters that these damn things are here again. Fortifications, trenches, cannon and machine gun emplacements, goblin after goblin taking position, and the whole mine putting out a harsh alarm. Tomorrow sounds 3 long blasts, and the battle officially begins. The cannons of all 3 cities fire at once. An overwhelming artillery fire closes over Gro's mine. A shell comes down whistling and slams into a trench and throws dust up out of the flame. And the goblins in that trench take very few casualties, because every one of them is down on elbows and knees with hands over their ears and mouths open. That is a standard anti-artillery prone position. A goblin miner leader shouts hoarsely at them to counterattack those damned humans. In one moment, every cannon on Gro's mine fires. In the cockpit, Dangbin works the rudder continuously, shifting tomorrow constantly to slip the incoming fire. Then our frost cannon fires with a roar, and a large fortification takes the hit and instantly becomes an ice sculpture, and one ordinary shell after it blows the whole thing into countless ice shards. Very good, I say, nodding. That gun's power is genuinely impressive, and its only drawback is how few shells it has. The Conqueror and Azure are firing at the same time. With its lava treads, the Conqueror climbs nimbly up the mountainside and fires down into the trenches below. Azure has no level 1 cannon, and it does have a level 1 heavy machine gun, and it has closed the distance to the mine and started a frenzied barrage. Goblin fortifications built of ordinary brick and tile prove to be paper and are simply shot through. The goblins resist extremely tenaciously even so, and bullets and shells rain onto all 3 cities. Tomorrow and the Conqueror both carry level 1 city armor and can stand it. And Azure is struggling, and after multiple city components are damaged, it has no choice but to pull back temporarily. Rows of goblin helicopters come at us aggressively as well, and are quickly shot down by heavy machine guns and rocket launchers. They fall with raging tail flames and turn into burning balls on the way down. To reverse the situation, the goblins bring the level 1 cannon out of the mine. Seeing it, I go rigid, because from the shells they are loading it looks like an armor-piercing gun. Measuring distance, calculating wind, calculating trajectory angle, and the goblin gunner completes that whole sequence fast and lights the fuse. That shell goes directly through the Conqueror's city armor on its flank. Concentrate fire, I snap, and prioritize killing that level 1 cannon. And at the same time, I wipe the cold sweat off my forehead, because this is too outrageous. The goblins actually have a level 1 cannon. The battle runs several hours before it ends. Having pulled back to a safe range, the 3 of us meet, and overall the results are acceptable. Better than half the fortifications on the entire mine have been cleared, and both level 1 cannons are dead. Once the three cities replenish shells and bullets, we can flatten the place in one push, and casualties across all three remain inside an acceptable range. While Rojiam and Li Jin are letting their breath out, my brows come down hard, because I am afraid this will not run as smoothly as it looks. That wild boss has not appeared yet, and then a sharp scream comes up out of Gross Mine, saying nobody will take Gross Mine. I get the binoculars up and find a goblin rushing out of a mine tunnel. It is about the size of a regular goblin, wearing an oversized hard hat and a white vest, carrying a rough, heavy pickaxe with a wrench tucked in its belt, slightly hunched, with small, fierce eyes. Going by what is coming off it, that is very clearly Foreman Jeremy, descended on Gross Mine. He kicks a goblin lying nearby and tells it angrily not to play dead and to get up and work, calling it a lazy bum. Then the foreman looks at the fortifications and trenches scattered across the mine, blown to pieces, and his brows come down. "Damn it," he says. "How did it get this damaged?" and says it is time for repairs. He picks up the wrench and starts repairing at an astonishing rate. That wild boss moves across the mine like lightning, and wherever he goes, trenches, fortifications, collapsed tunnels, all of it is miraculously restored and actually gleaming afterward. Before long, the entire mine's defenses are back to original condition. The three of us are simply dumbfounded. "It only took about 10 minutes, Li Jin says. And Rojiam sighs and says he actually had the presence of mind to time it. I wipe my forehead. Just like that, several hours of fighting by three mobile cities has been completely nullified. This wild boss appears to have very little combat power, and to be functional instead, and it is interdependent with Gross Mine as a monster stronghold, which makes it extremely troublesome. Li Jin asks whether winning means we have to take Gross Mine in one go. I think about it and shake my head. Difficult. The first wave the three cities put in was the strongest in momentum, and the best prepared and the highest in morale. It only destroyed most of the mine's defensive structures without even penetrating the interior. Going by that, a protracted positional fight against this mine is clearly not workable. And then something arrives. Although this wild boss can repair fortifications fast, I say it cannot save the wounded or the dead. Li Jin and Rogiam exchange a look and both sets of eyes light up, and one of them starts to say that I mean. We focus on killing goblins, I tell them. Once their manpower is spent, they cannot hold the mine. An hour later, the three cities attack again, and this time the goal is not capturing strongholds, but prioritizing trenches and fortifications with large numbers of goblins in them. As their companions drop one after another, the goblins work out our intentions soon enough. Damned humans, Foreman Jeremy says, shaking with rage, always resorting to despicable tricks. And soon the goblins implement a countermeasure, which is dispersing their people into every trench and fortification available, which gives us the headache instead. Bombing trenches and fortifications takes shells, and one shell costs 3 units of iron ore and 1 of gunpowder. And continuing this way, none of us is sure we can afford it. And with the war already started, giving up now makes the sunk cost too high to swallow. So 3 mobile cities and a mine full of goblins settle into a war of attrition. After 2 days and 2 nights of it, seeing that the remaining goblin numbers are few, the 3 cities unite and launch a general assault. Most of the mine's fortifications are not completely intact, and the goblins no longer have the manpower to hold them, and all they can do is watch as the whole place is pushed flat. Foreman Jeremy brandishes his wrench and his pickaxe and joins the fighting furiously. Exactly as I predicted, that wild boss has very little combat power, and the weapons in its hands do very little damage. And it is unexpectedly tough and thick-skinned, because even after being shelled by level 1 artillery, it stands straight back up as though nothing has happened and dusts off its knees. All we can do is wear it down slowly, I sigh. Under a siege by 3 cities, Foreman Jeremy gradually cannot hold and goes down. He fought until the very end, he mumbles, eyes vacant, and says he is sorry and that he could not complete your majesty's plan to expand the territory. Your majesty. The 3 of us stop where we stand. This goblin has a king, which means there is a goblin kingdom. And if one Gross Mine is this difficult, how absurdly powerful is a goblin kingdom? Of the 3 of us, Rojiam is the most pragmatic. Who cares, he says, scratching his head. We are level 1 cities and the sky is not going to fall on us. And we should see what this wild boss dropped first. Li Jin nods, and my own expression is complicated, because I am wondering whether the monster civilization in that intelligence refers to the goblins. Then the 3 of us check the drops, and as a wild boss, Foreman Jeremy has dropped considerably better than the Lava Spider Queen did. 5,174 crystal coins. 1,556 units of level 1 iron ore, 976 of coal, 512 of fuel, 851 of cloth, a level 1 item called the Foreman's Reliable Work Vest, a level 1 item called the Universal Wrench, a level 1 food blueprint for instant cup noodles, the mine storeroom key, and a level 2 weapon called the Goblin Gold Medal Player's Baseball Bat. My eyes go to that key and stay there, because opening the storeroom is how I get the city promotion blueprint. Under our earlier agreement, I have priority on drops other than level 2 items, I say, picking it up without objection. Then the three of us go through the 4 level 1 items. The Foreman's Reliable Work Vest reduces damage taken by the wearer by 70%, and that effect does not apply to damage from level 1 or above. The Universal Wrench increases repair efficiency by 50% when repairing level 1 and regular grade buildings and vehicles. The Goblin Travel Canteen refreshes 1 canteen of fresh water daily at 6 in the morning. And the Instant Cup Noodles Blueprint increases satiety by 10% and manufactures at 1/5 of a unit of flour. These are all good things, I say out loud. Wearing that vest lets a man walk more or less unhindered across the level 1 wasteland area. The wrench raises repair efficiency. The canteen is genuinely magical, refreshing water every day without input, and it is very popular among bounty hunters and solo survivors out here and can sell for a high price. And the cup noodle blueprint is very good as well. Since 1 unit of flour makes 5 cups, its additional effect is real, and it stores conveniently in a warehouse. I want to prioritize this one too, I say, and take the cup noodle blueprint without a second thought. Watching me tuck it away smiling, both of them sigh internally, because this kid has genuinely sharp eyes. Then the three of us look at the level 2 item, the Goblin Gold Medal Player's Baseball Bat. At item level 2, whose effect stuns the target for 3 seconds on a hit. All three of us look at it with complicated expressions. For a lone wolf or a bounty hunter, that is a very strong single soldier weapon out in the wild. For something the size of a mobile city, its effectiveness is minimal. The level 2 drops off this wild boss are clearly a mix of good and bad, and our luck this time was not especially strong. After some bidding, Ro Jiam takes it for 2,000 crystal coins, and the reason he is willing to bid at all is to fulfill a personal ambition of owning a level 2 item. The other 3 items go to bidding as well. I take the Foreman's Universal Wrench, and he takes the vest and the canteen. The auction money, along with the crystal coins and coal and the rest of the wild boss spoils, splits evenly 3 ways, and all 3 parties are relatively satisfied with it. Ro Jiam likes collecting level 1 items with miraculous functions, especially combat ones. By his account, putting a full set together and going monster hunting out in the wild is a deeply satisfying way to live, so a level 2 weapon suits him. As for the travel canteen, he is so taken with the thing that he states outright he will absolutely never sell it. As for me, there is nothing much to say, since I appear to be at a disadvantage on the surface and am quietly making a fortune. Because as long as I can gather enough resources, I can advance to a level 2 city. The Foreman's Wrench naturally goes to Immu. After the division, we exchange hostages back. Ro Jiam says with genuine feeling that he thinks next time we cooperate, we will not need hostages at all. I nod at him. After 2 collaborations, trust has gradually accumulated between the 3 of us, and out here where order has collapsed and nobody's heart is predictable. That is a rare and valuable thing. Then Li Jin pulls both of us into a hard hug. After that setback, Azure was in a difficult position, and 2 collaborations later it has gradually improved. Beyond the spoils, Gro's mine still holds a considerable quantity of mineral resources, so after clearing the last goblins, the 3 parties divide the mining areas between them. I tally the manpower I actually have. Nobody from tomorrow died this time, and 15 people are injured. And counting those still not recovered from earlier injuries, the casualty count reaches 22, which is half of tomorrow's current manpower. Mainly it is that the monsters out here are too hardcore, and goblins turn out to be no exception, and if it had been tomorrow alone, we could not have taken Gro's mine at all. Against that, the Conqueror runs an exaggerated 79 people because it keeps slaves, and Azure, which keeps none, still holds 62. Talking with Ro Jiam, I learned without meaning to that newcomers aboard the Conqueror start as slaves and can become ordinary residents after putting in a certain amount of work. Hard as being a slave is, at least there is a channel upward, which gives a person something to hold on to. After that, I come to the Gro's mine storeroom, and what I did not expect is that besides the city promotion blueprint, it also holds precious ores the goblins had stored. 320 units of copper ore, 164 of silver ore, 75 of gold ore. That alone is equivalent to better than 10,000 crystal coins. I call people quickly to move it all back aboard and deploy the mining teams. Apart from Dang Bin standing by in the cockpit and the lookout holding the tower, every other person goes into the mine. Then I go back to my room and slowly open the city promotion blueprint. Promoting a level 1 mobile city requires 2,000 units of iron ore, 2,000 of wood, 2,000 of fuel, and 2,000 of saltpeter. On top of that, it wants 1,000 units of city alloy, 1 copy of a city structure blueprint, and 1 city crystal. These conditions are too harsh, and I say so out loud, dumbfounded. Iron ore and wood and fuel and saltpeter are fine, since those are level 1 resources and being frugal gathers them in a few weeks. City alloy is another matter, because forging 1 unit of it takes 1 unit of iron ore, 1 of copper ore, 1 unit of any rare vein ore, and shadow, thunder, light, frost, and wind erosion all count toward the number. 1,000 units of that is simply outrageous, since it is enough to build 3 frost cannons. The city structure blueprint is a resource only elite-grade monsters or better might drop, and the drop rate is extremely low. I once heard a bounty hunter in Roland Fortress say a fortress auctioned one, and it went for 57,000 crystal coins. And as for a city crystal, that is beyond price, since the entire area produces fewer than a handful of them. Let us take it slow, I say, wiping my forehead. Difficult as it is, there is at least some hope in it. And in the time after that I start doing one thing, which is searching goblin bodies. Gross mine is currently carpeted in them, and the 3 lords divide the ground and each of us works our own area. For a mobile city, a monster corpse counts as a resource, since they drop crystal coins and cloth and iron ore and occasionally finished weapons and equipment and blueprints. I go through them and I am unexpectedly patient about it, because every corpse is a lottery ticket, and the goblins turn out to be as poor as zombies, dropping cloth and crystal coins as a rule, and 1 or 2 units of iron ore if I am lucky. Elite goblins do only slightly better, giving up ordinary finished goods like knives and guns and furniture. Then, just as I am sighing over it repeatedly, I find something on an elite goblin without meaning to. A green source poultry feed blueprint at item level 1. Its effects increase the growth rate of fed poultry and livestock by 10%, and reduce the chance of poultry getting sick by 20%, and it crafts at 1 unit of grain. A note adds that the higher the level of grain invested, the better the effect. Level 1 poultry feed. My eyes light up immediately, because that is a very good haul. Tomorrow already keeps several pairs of chickens and ducks, and the morning light wheat is already planted. So when the wheat matures, a batch goes aside to feed them. Li Jin and Ro Guillaume have average luck off the goblin corpses, picking up a few ordinary blueprints at best. All of them furniture and daily necessities. When they learn what I found, they are envious immediately. Azure and the Conqueror both grow morning light wheat themselves, and both have just harvested a batch. The 2 of them asked me to process a batch of green source poultry feed for them, and I pull some wool off both of them and keep a share of the feed. I grab a handful and look at it closely. Level 1 feed has a smooth uniform color and moderate hardness, and puts out a faint fresh smell. I nodded it sincerely, because with this the growth rate of the poultry aboard goes up significantly, and before long there will be meat and eggs coming in. This haul is pretty good, I say with genuine feeling, looking at the list in my hand. At gross mine, I have mined a total of 1,021 units of iron ore, 103 of copper ore, 33 of silver ore, and 15 of gold ore. As for the frost ore I have been longing for, there was no output at all. Add the 500 and change of iron ore from the wild boss division and the 100 and change dropped by goblin corpses. This trip has brought in better than 1,700 units of iron ore in total. The corpse drops are folded into the numbers as well, and most of them were crystal coins and cloth with occasional ordinary weapons and furniture and daily goods. The biggest gain is unquestionably that level 1 feed blueprint. By then, Azure and the Conqueror have finished mining too, and the 3 cities set off together back toward Roland Fortress for the usual rest and to digest the results of the fighting. On the deck, I open the intelligence system, and during the days of attacking Gro's mine, that epic entry is already refreshed and the cooldown has already reset on top of it. Time to the next refresh reads 1 day 19 hours 59 minutes 59 seconds, and the quantity reads 5. This refresh took a full 2 days, so its value should not be bad, I muse. And never mind that, let me see what the epic content is first. To my surprise, this one is particularly special. The Wasteland area map has been completed, it says, at intelligence value epic, with a line inviting me to click and view. Intelligence can actually be delivered as a map, I say surprised, and clicking it with some skepticism. A map opens in front of me. From it, the southern part of the Wasteland area holds Firefeather Forest and Thunder Canyon, and the Rotting Land, which is where my group currently is. The central area is a vast expanse of city ruins plus a giant forest. The eastern area is an astonishingly large mobile labyrinth. The western area is continuous mountain range. And the north is a large freshwater lake named Tranquil Lake. I hold my breath and stare at the map in front of me. The southern area I am sitting in is average-sized and takes up only 19% of the Wasteland area's total. The eastern mobile maze is 17%, the western mountains are 21%, and the central city ruins and giant forest together come to 23%. And that large freshwater lake in the north is a full 20%, which for a lake is a significant amount of ground. It has to be said that this epic entry is worth what it costs, since it amounts to handing me the full map. Before this, I was fumbling in the dark with no idea of the Wasteland area's scale at all. Now that I know what the Wasteland area looks like, I mutter, It is time to think about where tomorrow goes next. The Western Wasteland area is known to be the level 1 basin area, and reaching it means crossing continuous mountains, which is clearly very difficult. For the Conqueror, with its lava treads, that is not an issue. As for the freshwater lake in the north, mobile cities can actually sail on water. Since the production workshop originally carries a series of ordinary city components like propellers and sails and thrusters and hulls, and with enough water navigation components, a city can put out to sea outright. The western mountains and the eastern mobile maze are not inside my range of choices, so what I actually have to decide is north or south. Going north means first crossing the city ruins and the giant forest in the center, and then traversing the entire freshwater lake, which amounts to crossing half the wasteland area. Going south is far easier, and puts me into a new region fast. I work my chin and think about it. While resting at Roland Fortress, I tried gathering information off bounty hunters and lone wolves and people from outside convoys. Most of them said the Eternal Night Zone lies in the northern wasteland area, and that the monsters that turn up there are terrifying. And honestly, having seen the map, I want to go north anyway. I am extremely curious about that freshwater lake and I want to see it with my own eyes. Rest at Roland Fortress a day or two, sell another round of goods in the market, gather enough resources, and then head north. What I never expected was to reach my destination and find the whole of Roland Fortress on fire. The walls are broken open and a corpse tide is raging through it, and the screaming does not stop. Last night, the Lord of Roland Fortress died. The conflict between the two factions erupted completely, and the radical faction moved first and seized Manhwa, the Lord's daughter, intending to force their wandering city plan through in the name of a successor. The conservative faction's response was even more radical, because they simply chose to go to war, and with the entire fortress in chaos, the Scarlet Hound arrived. That predatory city blew the gates open with its level 1 frost cannon, and then used its own convoy as bait to walk a corpse tide inside. I learn all of that from a survivor I have just pulled out, and while I am hearing it, a roar comes from off in the distance, and I turn my head and it is the Scarlet Hound. Having waited for Roland Fortress to collapse completely, that predatory city took the opportunity to strip the resources out of it and then left with a flourish. I grind my teeth and make myself calm and say it quietly. You will pay for this eventually. With tomorrow and the Conqueror and Azure all working, the chaos at Roland Fortress finally ends. What was a prosperous fortress is now ruins carpeted in bodies. The place held better than 2,000 people and now holds 100 and change. And Manhwa is among them. When the gates went and the tide came through, she took the opening and killed the radical faction men holding her and got clear. Her first thought once she was clear was not safety, it was gathering people and pulling as many residents out as she could. Of those 100 and change survivors, a third were rescued by her. Once she is finally safe, the girl lets go and quietly covers her face. She is sorry, she says, her voice breaking, and tears come down before she has noticed them. She could not protect their home. Something moves behind my eyes. I know the apocalypse has no mercy in it, and watching a home for survivors get erased still puts something heavy in me. Having lost the thing they survived on, Manhwa and the rest have two choices, which are wandering outside or joining a mobile city like tomorrow, and very nearly all of them choose the latter. In a wasteland this full of monsters, the difficulty of surviving in the wild is not hard to picture. A mobile city supplies steady food and fresh water daily, along with a real guarantee of safety. Of the three cities, the one everybody wants is tomorrow. Falcon assault rifles, Gale rocket launchers, a frost cannon, city camouflage, sun apples, instant cup noodles, and even cola. Out of the three of us, tomorrow has the best resources by a distance, which puts me in a difficult position, because tomorrow urgently needs manpower and cannot absorb that many people at once. I think about it and decide to take only 40 this time and to select the best of them. Freelancers, young people, and able-bodied adults get priority, and professional talent like gunners and mechanics gets better treatment, and is even allowed to bring people along. The remaining 60 or so can only join Azure or the Conqueror. Li Jin has no objection at all, since Azure has only just come back and taking on more people suits him. Ro Jiam solemnly reminds anybody who wants to join the Conqueror that new recruits start as slaves and have to put in a certain amount of work before becoming ordinary residents. Those 60 and change each make their choice. Burying bodies, clearing rubble, searching for supplies, packing what is left. After all of that is done, Manhwa leads 39 survivors aboard tomorrow. Most of them let a breath out the moment they are standing on the deck, with something enormous and grateful in their eyes. When the gates went and the tide came through, they all believed they were finished. And even surviving that, none of them knew how they would live in the wild. Now they have joined a mobile city of decent strength, and their lives and their safety have something under them again. The survivors boarding the other two cities are thinking the same thing. The three of us do not go up onto any deck and stay on the ground to talk. I ask them where they go from here. With the cooperation ending, all three cities have to make their own choice. Since traveling together is ultimately not possible when the wild's resources are limited, and cannot feed two cities at once, and wild bosses and gross mine were the exceptions rather than the rule. Both of them nod, thinking about it. Their own view is that there is no rush to leave. Li Jin says first. Ro-Gi-am agrees and says they should take their time developing for a few months. I shake my head at both of them, resolutely. No, the entire Wasteland area is completely destroyed in 3 months. No, less than 3 months now. Both of them go still. Seeing me this serious, which they have not seen before, they choose to believe me. Then I lay out the general shape of the Wasteland area for them. The city ruins, the mobile maze, the freshwater lake, the mountains. Ro-Gi-am considers whether the west side is also a level 1 area, and on hearing that it is, says then he heads west. For the Conqueror with its lava treads, crossing the mountains is not a problem. As for Li Jin, Azure has no treads like that, so it cannot cross mountains at all, and west is ruled out immediately. If we go north, we can travel together and cross the city ruins, I suggest. He thinks it through carefully and makes his decision, thanking me for the offer, and choosing in the end to develop here a month before going south. Since this is the southern wasteland area, and the trip south into a new region is very short, probably under a week. And what if that place turns out to be a level 2 area or higher, he says, chuckling and scratching his head. Because then Azure is finished. Before leaving, Ro-Gi-am also asks me to custom build a Rolls Royce for him. Then the big man drives it around in a circle, and laughs and says that building it was a bit extravagant and it is deeply satisfying to drive. Li Jin, standing nearby, develops an unbearable itch and simply asks me to build him one as well. The time for goodbyes arrives and the three of us exchange a look and nod. Once we are up on our respective decks, the three of us look at each other across the distance and wave gently. Parting is always sad because nobody knows when the next meeting comes, and it might be an exciting reunion and it might be a world neither party recognizes. I watch 2 mobile cities pull away in their 2 directions, and then I turn and wave at the crowd behind me. Depart. We are heading north the whole way. The new path is set and every parameter is configured, Dang Bin says in the cockpit, leaning back with his hands behind his head looking thoroughly relaxed. For the next 5 or 6 hours we can leisurely drink tea and talk. The other helmsman nods slowly at that. This one is named Abake, and like old Jew he was one of the slaves who started out with me. Abake is a few years older than Dang Bin and behaves like a junior in front of him. Because Dang Bin's skill at handling this city is far past his and Dang Bin patiently teaches him technique, and over time the two of them have built a genuine understanding. These days, Dang Bin has become increasingly familiar with the city and can fairly be called proficient. I told him a long time ago that he could become an excellent helmsman, I say, walking in and tossing both of them a bottle of cola. He looks up surprised and calls me Hyung and asks whether I am here. I smile and pat his head and nod at Abake as well, and ask whether I have heard right that he has even learned evasive maneuvers now. Yes, he says, and adds that he simply does not know how it will go in practice. While the three of us are talking, old Jew comes in quickly and reports that the new recruits' rooms are arranged. Good, I tell him. Tomorrow originally stood at 84 people, and over this period 6 of the badly injured died of their wounds, which leaves 78. That cost me more than I let anybody see. It also puts a considerably more urgent edge on wanting a doctor. And finding a doctor out here is extremely difficult, because professional talent of that kind is scarcer than a mechanic or a helmsman. Training a doctor takes a good learning environment like a medical school and abundant medical resources to practice on. In a wasteland where survival is everybody's first job, nobody grows up planning to become one. Mobile city lords would love to train them and cannot build hospitals and cannot find that volume of medical resources. After Gro's mine, tomorrow took some additional casualties, and the 40 new arrivals cover the labor shortfall. To my surprise, one of them volunteers to be a lookout, and that person is Im. Ha. After a careful assessment, I nod, surprised, and tell her skill is quite good, and ask when she practiced this. She smiles slightly and brushes her short hair back behind her ear, and says she learned it from her mother when she was small. I make a noise at that. When she was little, she says Roland Fortress was only a level 1 mobile city. She looks off into the distance and says it softly. Her father was Lord of the Roland and her mother was the Roland's lookout. She often used to sneak up to her mother's side and watch the far scenery from the lookout tower, and her mother taught her a great deal about the work. Back then she would stand up there squinting into a gentle wind, watching the adults bustling around below, and the feeling of it was truly wonderful. A hint of something bitter arrives at the corner of her mouth as she says it, but later, I put a hand on her shoulder gently and say nothing more. After she goes, something occurs to me and surprise and feeling come up together. Helmsman, gunner, mechanic, lookout, combat captain. Without noticing I did it, I have gathered every one of them. Tomorrow currently holds 78 people and its strength is gradually becoming abundant and it is steadily moving toward being a real organization, which means it can no longer be run like the makeshift team of a dozen people it was. I am Lord and Old Jew as my deputy and also combat captain. The helmsmen are Dangbin and Abake, the mechanic is Immu, the gunner is Youngmoon, and the lookout is Imha. The original combat personnel numbered 20, with everyone else being ordinary residents, and I decided to expand combat personnel to 30. After taking out the one person assigned to Immu and his friend's sister So-Yan, there are 39 hands left to deploy, and I arranged them quickly. 15 go to mining and logging and similar work. 10 go to the fields and to managing the sun apple trees on the upper level. 5 handle tomorrow's daily cleaning. 5 stay on the lower level working the fuel room and the engine room. And the last 4 serve as logistics, filling in wherever they are needed. I try hard to give every single person a task, because a mobile city does not support idlers. At the same time, I establish a ranking system. From lowest treatment upward, it runs 3rd class resident, 2nd class resident, 1st class resident, combat personnel, then professional talent like combat captain and helmsman, and lookout and gunner and mechanic, then deputy and management, then lord. The higher the rank, the more fresh water and steamed buns and potatoes a person draws daily, which is faintly comical as a reward structure and is what tomorrow's current resources permit. Beyond that, there's cola and instant cup noodles, and once they ripen, sun apples, and there are vegetables and fruit in the warehouse that can go to higher ranks. A ranking system on a mobile city is necessary, because it gives residents a reason to work hard. I gather everyone soon after and announce the arrangements and the whole system. To my surprise, nobody has many demands about the food supply, which is not actually unexpected. Out here, survival and safety are what people need first. When I open my eyes again, a new day has come up. I stay lying on my side, squinting, feeling the slight tremor in the room. It comes off tomorrow moving, its power engine running steadily, the vibration traveling out through brass pipes carrying steam and water vapor and spreading along the veins of this giant steel animal. I have grown used to that tremor. It means the city is moving steadily out in the wild, which is a reassuring thing to wake up to. I dress and fold the quilt and wash simply, and stepping out of my room I find the wild waking up in pale gray light. The last solitary star still hangs on the horizon, and night dew condensed on the tips of the grass looks like something it left behind. The whole wasteland looks scattered with tiny shards of glass. The sky starts seeping a hazy red, and that red runs over small rivers and spreads across the land and gradually wakes everything. Birds put their heads out of nests in the branches, and gerbils come out of their burrows with a rustle, whiskers still muddy. Then the sun finally gets over the horizon, and gold light pours gently across the gears and pipes of the moving city and makes it warm and bright along with everything else. The people aboard have already started their daily work. Down in the lower power engine area, Immu has an ear against a hydraulic pipe with his eyes shut, listening to what is inside it. He is still wearing the leather apron he repaired in last night, covered in oil and coal ash. On the newly cultivated fields up top, residents carefully tend the newly sown sun apple trees and the cloud dream cotton. Near the middle layer's shell, several residents hang on ropes doing aerial cleaning. And on the decks and corridors, there are occasionally people leaning on railings looking at the country going past, usually residents assigned to outside resource extraction or combat personnel between rotations. After breakfast, I walk into the upper observation tower as usual. Imha is on duty, and this girl has very clearly not recovered from losing her father in her home. When I come up, she looks at me surprised, then evidently works something out and hands me the binoculars. I nod at her and take them and look out at the country. The morning wind comes past the copper railing and lifts the hems of our clothes and drops them again. The whole city turns slowly beneath our feet with the muffled clanking of gears going through it like the heartbeat of something enormous. She leans on the railing with her fingertips tapping it idly. "How does it feel when you miss home?" she asks softly. I turn and look at her, surprised. I had deliberately kept quiet and had even been careful taking the binoculars out of consideration for how she must feel. And I did not expect her to speak first. Missing home. I turn the phrase over, and my thoughts behave like a small box knocked open in a corner, with everything coming out at once. I was 25, an ordinary office worker in a big city, living the same 9 to 5 as every other commuter. I rented a small apartment out in the suburbs with a long commute at both ends of the day. My family was ordinary too, my father working for a state-owned company, my mother teaching at a middle school, my sister at university. My life's trajectory was long and entirely predictable. Work hard a few years, save some money, meet somebody suitable, buy a car and a place, marry, have children. And then transmigration arrived and took every one of those plans apart. And set against the melancholy of never getting home again, what I actually feel more of is ambition. This is a wonderful world. The humans left in it lean on moving cities as their support, and they migrate and operate and fight out of those wandering homes. Along the road, a man can meet a great many people and see a great many things. I look out at the country and my brows gradually come loose. Father, mother, little sister. If you knew I had come to a world this magnificent, you would be happy for me. This place is strange and it is full of color, and there is a great deal in it worth wanting. I will live well here and leave a great many stories behind me. When I come back to myself, I find she is still looking at me, waiting for the answer. Probably melancholy, I say slowly, and sad, and happy, and relieved. She nods gently and tucks her short hair behind her ear and says, "Is that so?" And the two of us lean on the railing and watch the country and talk about nothing much from time to time. Half an hour later, something catches both of us. A couple of miles off, a dozen moving cities of wildly different styles come in from every direction and gather together. To my surprise, every one of them is miniature, no more than a few hundred square feet of ground each. Mostly they are a few makeshift huts fitted with miniature robotic arms and cranes, plus a series of comforts like rain shelters and observation decks, and gardens and warehouses and small water towers. One of them sounds a whistle, and then the cities start to connect. Retractable bridges large and small with articulated joints snake out from under their armor plates, their rivets old and clearly reliable. A device on the central city splits open and automatically assembles into several floating platforms as it rises, its jagged edges interlocking precisely with the bridges. People step onto the walkways the bridges make and meet on the platforms. Everyone shares the snacks and drinks and food they brought and talks happily, and every one of them is white-haired and has very obviously known the others for many years. And the cities themselves start working. First one, wreathed in flowers and plants, sprays fragrant steam out through its pipes and wraps the whole reunion in it. One carrying several huge wine barrels on its outside provides the drink. One with half its area given to fields provides fresh vegetables and fruit. And the last one provides music, and its appearance is the most distinctive of them, with dozens of metal pipes layered along its sides like organ stops. The lord of that one is a white-haired old lady in a pale yellow dress, and she is now sitting in front of a piano. As she works the keys, an elegant tune starts, and the sound runs out through those metal pipes and finally plays through the large loudspeakers mounted on the city's roof. That is really nice, I say, and I mean it. Even without a colossal body, wanting a free life is enough to turn the smallest gears there are. Those are level 0.5 moving cities, Imha says, turning to me. And from the daughter of a fortress lord, I learn what they are. Not every mobile city starts at level 1 scale. Some lords begin very poor indeed, owning only a steam engine and a boiler room, a production workshop, a few small huts, and tracks and tires. That is level 0.5, and they have to gather resources diligently out in the wild and build slowly to grow into level 1 scale. And some level 0.5 lords are exceptions to that. Unlike most people, they do not focus on upgrading their city's level and space at all, and focus on the life immediately in front of them, patiently refining and building what they already have. They put in observation decks and small gardens and small fields and fruit sheds to their own taste, and they plant flowers in the city's crevices. The space on one is limited and generally holds about a dozen people, and the people living on one are usually a family. The father drives, the mother handles repairs and troubleshooting, and the young children look after the fields and the garden. Their safety is less fragile than it sounds, since a level 0.5 city is very small and consequently very fast and can reach better than 120 miles an hour out in the wild. Some of them even arrange plants along the outside as camouflage. Being small in scale with few people, their daily needs in coal and fuel and food and fresh water are very low. And because they rarely collect blueprints or level 1 items or anything else worth taking, predatory cities are reluctant to bother with them, which makes surviving out here considerably easier. Is that so? I say, nodding slowly, and I ask what their gathering is then. She tilts her head with her chin in her hand and smiles. The level 0.5 cities of the Wasteland area have an organization called the Captain's Club, she says, and every so often they gather at a prearranged spot. A Captain's Club. I am surprised first and then nod gently at it, because thinking about it, those cities genuinely do resemble small boats, so the name fits. By now, more and more people on the deck have noticed them, and everybody has gathered at the edge of the deck, leaning on the railing and discussing it with real excitement. I think about it and ask her whether we should go and take a look. She shakes her head with something melancholy in it. Level 1 cities like ours are not welcome at the Captain's Club, she says. Their lords are all elderly grandfathers and grandmothers, and we should not upset them. I do not want to give it up even so. I have Dangbin sound too long and one short. The level 0.5 cities are silent a long while after hearing it, and finally one of them sounds the same thing back. They agreed, I say, genuinely delighted. She is surprised by that and still looks at me with some concern. Are we not supposed to be heading for the central area right now, she asks, and is delaying really all right? I smile and shake my head gently. Being on the road every day gets tiring, I tell her, and it is nice to stop occasionally and look at something. Then I put my hand out to her and say I would bet she wants to see it too. She nods, and a rare smile turns up on her face. The two of us ride out in the off-road vehicle toward them, and getting out nearby, I find every level 0.5 lord watching us. All of them are elderly, the youngest better than 50 and the oldest close to 80. The floating platform is evidently a tea party for the lords alone, while their families keep busy on their respective cities. "Damn it!" one of them shouts angrily, an old man in scholarly clothes. "Old Lee never parks his city properly," he says, and this time that big wine barrel on the outside scraped his rose bush right off. And the one he means, a white-vested old man with a big beard and a beer belly, laughs heartily and says he would argue good wine beats carefully arranged flower art any day. Another old man, baking cookies, asks in confusion what happened to the music and why it has stopped. The lord of the music city, the well-dressed old lady, sips her tea slowly and says she only plays one song each time. If he did not listen carefully, he will have to wait until next time. Then all of those old lords look at the two of us. "What young lords?" the scholarly one says, and says we cannot have taken over that city long ago, seeing how well it has developed. "I hate these level 1 cities most of all," the cookie baking one says without turning his head, "because they run around the wild like locusts, mining resources and causing trouble everywhere." "Do not always be so prejudiced," the white-vested one says, patting his belly and laughing, "because seeing young people always makes a man feel good, like looking at himself when he was young." I ask, curious, how long the lot of them have known each other. "Almost 40 years, one of them answers, and then waves us over and tells us to come and have tea and talk with the old folks. The morning out here is exceptionally quiet. The small cities sit gathered together, and tomorrow stands watch off in the distance. I drink tea and talk with the old lords, and my mood gradually comes loose. As we can see, the scholarly one says, this is our life. No hunting, no fighting, migrating with our families every day, and occasionally gathering with old friends. Then he sets the teapot down and looks around at his old friends' cities, and says something with genuine feeling. They believe true freedom is not about how much living space a man has. It is about fitting your entire world into a few hundred square feet of romance. I nod at that sincerely, because I also think a life like that is quite good. Then something else occurs to me, and I put the teapot down fast to remind them. The Wasteland area is destroyed in under 3 months, I tell them, and they need to leave quickly. The elders exchange looks and smile. In fact, one says, they are planning a race to see who reaches the basin area in the west first. But are there not sprawling mountains in the west, I ask, surprised. The cookie baking one waves it off gently and says it is fine. That old Lee is an excellent mechanic and can help everybody modify their climbing tracks. The white-vested one puts his hands on his hips and huffs and says it seems they want to work this old man to death. Every lord there exchanges a look and laughs. The tea party ends soon after, and the old lords go back to their own cities and retract the platforms and the bridges. By then, Imha and I are back on tomorrow's deck, watching it from a distance. Those small moving cities line up out in the wild facing west, with their chimneys putting out steam, very obviously poised. Then a whistle goes, and they surge forward like racers and run west. That is wonderful, she says, her eyes lighting up watching it, and says these grandfathers and grandmothers seem never to have gotten old. I nod and feel it along with her. Then I wave a hand and tell them we are going, and that we continue on our way. Noon. I stand on the watchtower looking out. I did not expect to reach the central area this fast, I murmur. As the distance shrinks, I get a clearer view of the city ruins in front of me, and it is strikingly a picture of the end of the world. Buildings collapsed, weeds and vines running thick over mottled walls, scattered rusted vehicles left along the streets. Off in the distance, the skeletons of tall buildings still stand, with most of their outer shells peeled away. Rebar frames rise out of the concrete remains like the ribs of a dead animal the size of a hill. These ruins are vast and run very nearly out of sight left and right, and by my estimate the city was probably built for 1 million people. I rub my hands together. In here, I can send people to pull rebar out of the concrete and collect metal like pots and pans and old appliances. All of it goes into tomorrow's furnace to be melted back into iron ore. Our mechanical arms are only ordinary quality, which makes excavating concrete inefficient, and relying purely on hands would be worse. And furniture out of the buildings dismantles back into timber. Every little bit helps. Compared to rebar, concrete is the most abundant material in the city, and once hardened it cannot be dismantled for reuse at all. I plan to rest and gather here about a week and take as much as we can carry. More than that, I am concerned about the situation. This is the central area of the Wasteland area, and any survivor or convoy or mobile city passes through here. Being a ruin with a great deal worth scavenging, a great many factions come to it. How many survivors are here? How many survivor convoys? How many mobile cities? Whether there are corpse tides, whether there are monsters or even wild bosses. I have a large question mark sitting in my head about all of it. As a level 1 city, tomorrow can drive the city's main roads, and will occupy every lane doing it, and will occasionally scrape the buildings on either side. The outskirts are manageable with fewer buildings and wider roads. The center will be a problem. There are still several hours until the intelligence refreshes, and I have no intention of idling through them, so I pick a relatively good spot on the periphery and have tomorrow more there. Then I issue orders. Dang Bin and Abake stand by at the frost cannon. He has been very busy these days as well, mainly because he has to train combat personnel to work the cannons, since he is one man and cannot operate that many guns at once. In fact, while the title says gunner, he is closer to a captain of gunners now. Old Jew takes the combat personnel and splits them two ways, one group standing by at the ordinary cannons and heavy machine guns, and the other on ground alert. 15 residents assigned to outside extraction ride the lift platform down and start work. Over the next few hours, they are pulling rebar out of concrete, stripping abandoned vehicles, and searching houses for old appliances and assorted metal. Mu takes his deputy and 4 logistics people and continues the repair work because Gro's mine damaged a great many parts of the city. Having lost Roland Fortress as a harbor, tomorrow now has to repair itself while moving. Groups take their places one after another and start. With a crash, a mechanical arm breaks a house open, and another strike shatters most of the concrete and lays the rebar bare inside it. 2 residents step in with personal pickaxes and break the rest of the concrete and carry the rebar onto the lift platform. Across the street, 3 or 4 go carefully into a house and start collecting usable metal, with 2 combat personnel escorting them carrying Falcon assault rifles, while a patrol works the street with 1 man holding a Gale rocket launcher. Aboard, the ordinary cannons and the heavy machine guns and the frost cannon are all in position ready to put fire down the moment anything happens. The most valuable things here are the abandoned vehicles, since their bodies hold a great deal of metal, and there is exactly 1 on this entire street. Which is unsurprising because countless mobile cities have come through this city over the years, and every one of them understood that vehicles are the best return and took them first. 10 minutes in, there is movement in the distance, a series of violent rumbles. Everyone working on the street stops and looks toward it, and it is coming from the center of the city. That sounds like cannon fire, I think. It could be a mobile city shelling a monster stronghold, or it could be 2 mobile cities at war. Not having established what these ruins actually contain, I still feel short of security. No, I mutter. I need to find a way to establish what is in this city, and failing everything else, I send a convoy out to scout ahead. Tomorrow has already built 4 level 1 off-road vehicles, and they are parked in the lower area where there is a dedicated lot with room for 12. A convoy reaches the ground on a lift platform to deploy, and between missions it parks in the lot and gets maintained and inspected by the city's mechanics. Thinking about that, I feel a pang, because 4 vehicles means 1,000 units of iron ore spent, and it was necessary. For a mobile city, a convoy is its left and right hands. A convoy scouts ahead, goes out for supplies, and in a fight between 2 cities carries heavy machine guns and rocket launchers into an assault on the enemy hull. I split the 4 into 2 convoys of 2 vehicles each, and assign each convoy 2 drivers and 4 combat personnel. They currently carry Falcon assault rifles and Gale rocket launchers, and on top of that I have made 4 ordinary heavy machine guns in the workshop and mounted them, which improves convoy combat power significantly. While waiting on a refresh, I open a cup of instant noodles and start eating. A level 1 cup noodle takes 1/5 of a unit of flour to produce, tastes decent, and carries a 10% satiety bonus, which makes it very good food. When a convoy goes out on a multi-day field mission, this is what they carry, since it eats and travels easily. Eating. I open the system and find there are still a few hours to go. Then I look at the combat personnel patrolling the deck, and an idea arrives immediately. Since I am idle anyway, I might as well go grinding nearby. Grinding is common usage on mobile cities. It means the city sends convoys and combat personnel out to sweep monsters in their strongholds along the way. Out here, monsters are also a kind of resource. Killing them drops crystal coins and iron ore and coal. Humanoid monsters drop fabric, and mutated ones like lava spiders and steel-bladed hyenas drop specific materials like lava spider silk and hyena steel teeth. They also drop a series of finished products, anything from daily necessities to books to weapons and tools. And it can even be level 1 items. And what everybody actually wants is blueprints. So I dispatch the 1st and 2nd convoys along with Mu flying the goblin helicopter, and send them out grinding. There are in fact a considerable number of monsters wandering the city ruins. Boarmen, goblins, snake men, ant people, jackal men. Some patrol in small teams, some gather around campfires, and some are dug into nests. And none of them is an easy target, since they generally carry swords or knives or clubs. Some carry firearms or rocket launchers. Some have heavy machine guns and cannons set up in their strongholds. They know how to find cover, how to take a standard posture against artillery, and how to coordinate tactically. I put the binoculars down and wipe my forehead. I do not understand why the monsters out here are this hardcore. Tomorrow has only recently formed its 1st and 2nd convoys and expanded its combat personnel, so I feel it is necessary to train them in advance. Over the next few hours, everyone comes back one after another with what they collected. Crystal coins, iron ore, coal, fabric, Among it, ordinary finished goods like flashlights and axes and pickaxes, and professional books. Supplies gradually pile into small mountains in front of me. What surprises me most is that the first convoy killed an elite Captain Jackalman and unexpectedly came away with a level 1 city building blueprint. The panel calls it a city simulation training cabin at item level 1. Its effect allows anyone entering the cabin to undergo various simulated training. It crafts at 200 units of level 1 iron ore, 50 of level 1 timber, and 100 of level 1 copper ore. What is this thing? I ask, frowning in confusion. Then I read the description carefully and my eyes go wide. This cabin can construct matching training scenarios covering everything from driving vehicles and repairing mobile cities to fighting outside. And those scenarios have to be constructed by feeding in a series of professional books, or by feeding in accurate data. If you want to fight something, you input the basic data of your own weapons and of the target. That target can be a monster, an enemy land or sea or air vehicle, or even a mobile city. The cabin ships with a handheld scanner, and scanning the target inputs the data. So that is how it works, I say, rubbing my hands together immediately. This time I have genuinely stumbled onto a treasure. With one of these, I can train combat personnel and specialized talent like mechanics and helmsmen and gunners, and I can even simulate a battle against an enemy mobile city. It can also train cooks and craftsmen and maintenance staff and anybody else a city needs. The prerequisite is feeding in the right professional books or supplying precise data. I put the blueprint into the workshop fast and spend the resources building the cabin on the middle level. It occupies about 650 square feet with a square house exterior, and inside there are 10 enclosed cabins, each holding a seat and a consciousness-linking helmet. Seeing the finished product, my excitement drops by better than half, mainly because this city building is far too crude. Since the exterior looks like a large square iron box and everything from the seats to the scanner to the parameter setting machine to the helmets is extremely rough and very nearly hand-assembled. Forget it, I console myself, because you cannot expect much when it costs this little to build. Out of curiosity, I feed in the automobile driving professional book we just picked up, lie down in a seat, and put the helmet on. My consciousness comes out in a square data space with a crudely modeled car in front of me. I get into it and run through a series of driving operations. And rudimentary as the setup is, it genuinely trains. If it could be upgraded to level 2, the experience would be far better, I think. After that, I use the scanner to input the data of my own level 1 weapons and heavy machine guns and the frost cannon. Then I have the first and second convoys go find monster corpses to scan. Then I put specific data into the cabin screen. One trainee, weapon held a Falcon assault rifle. Target location a jungle. Enemy types Goblin and Jackalman and Boarman. Enemy count 15. Combat difficulty normal. I finish the settings and put the helmet on, and the scene arrives immediately. And the jungle and the monsters and the weapon and my own body are all very crudely modeled. I try moving and shooting and find the tactile feedback acceptable. Forget it, I mutter. Crude models are crude models, and it is good enough that it trains people, and what more am I asking for? After that, I put Old Jew and the others into the cabin, one at a time to practice, and rough as the experience is, everybody still looks genuinely excited. They deliberately raise the monster counts and the difficulty and construct scenarios like swamp and wilderness and city. And I start thinking, it seems that cultivating more talent means collecting as many professional books as I can find. Books on vehicle driving, or mechanical repair, or cooking, or first aid, or cleaning. Used well, this cabin gives tomorrow a continuous supply of skilled people. Upgraded to a higher level cabin with a series of professional books collected, it might even become possible to train pilots and submarine drivers. Under my plan, the cabin's resources currently go to 3 things first: combat personnel simulating wild operations, routine maintenance and upkeep of the city, and off-road vehicle driving, firearm operation and shooting, and cannon and heavy machine gun operation. As for constructing the matching scenarios and the training programs, I hand that to Mu. With it, the quality of the people aboard improves significantly. With everything arranged, I open the panel, because the new intelligence has refreshed. This time it produces 1 common, 1 excellent, 2 rare, and 1 outstanding. There are 16 survivor communities in the city, the largest named Firefly with a population of 372, and that is common. There is a monster-held train station on the western edge of the city, which is excellent. In the commercial street 15 miles northwest, there is an overturned oil tanker holding 543 units of petroleum, which is rare. A monster mobile city is patrolling the city, and be careful, also rare. And the level 1 wild boss called the Tranquil Lake Monster has been subdued by the Silent, which is outstanding. I work through them as usual. First, communities. That is the common gathering form for survivors in the city ruins. And compared to the wild, ruins actually suit human survival better for 3 reasons. First, a great many supplies can be searched out of them. Second, there are high rises and houses everywhere, which makes hiding convenient. When a powerful monster or an outside convoy or a mobile city invades their home, they can fight a guerrilla war using buildings and sewers for cover. Third, small factories and power stations and other well-preserved buildings can be used to raise their standard of living. A community usually marks out an area and builds high walls and fences and plants crops locally and pushes for self-sufficiency. Communities generally exist as whole families with elderly and children in them alongside the young. The second interests me, a monster-held train station. There may be several trains parked in it, and train cars dismantle and melt back into iron ore, which is far easier than painstakingly breaking concrete for rebar. The third makes me somewhat happy. A tanker holding better than 500 units of petroleum and not far away. Better than 500 units of petroleum is equivalent to better than 500 of fuel, and my convoy has just been built and urgently needs it, and this should carry us a good while. The fourth simply stops me. What in the world is a monster mobile city? I take a deep breath and rub my face hard and make myself settle. Taken literally, it means a level 1 mobile city driven by monsters. Like a human city, it has city parts and heavy machine guns and artillery and its own combat personnel and convoys, and it might even carry level 1 artillery and level 1 heavy machine guns. I take another deep breath. Seeing goblins who could fly helicopters felt absurd enough, and I never expected monsters who drive mobile cities. The fifth changes my expression further. Another wild boss has appeared in the Wasteland area, and it was subdued by a mobile city called the Silent. Subdued, which means that wild boss is now something like a subordinate, taking orders from the Silent. My expression goes solemn by degrees, because I have personally seen what a wild boss is, and going by that, the strength of something able to subdue one has to be more terrifying still. My sense of insecurity deepens considerably. Having withdrawn everyone back to the deck, I order tomorrow northwest. That street is very secluded and the road is not wide, and I have to take a wide turn to see down it. At the end of it, there is an overturned tanker, and I send people to collect the petroleum immediately. At the same time, I dispatch both convoys, with the first exploring the outer area of the ruins and the second exploring the center. I require convoy members to prioritize their own safety at all times, because their mission is gathering information, and they open fire only if it is genuinely unavoidable. And they return by 6 in the morning at the latest, whether or not they have found anything. Both convoys leave soon after. Tomorrow stays stationed nearby continuing maintenance, and since I am idle anyway, I simply send the residents out again to keep collecting metal, and not much of it comes in, and every little bit helps. What I did not expect is that even out here on the edge of the ruins, a great many parties come past. 2 bounty hunters, 3 survivor convoys, and 1 level 1 mobile city. The bounty hunters and the survivor convoys do not even entertain a thought about tomorrow, and hold their distance carefully and leave in a hurry. And that level 1 mobile city stirs in the distance, and then notices we carry level 1 artillery, and gives the idea up fast and flees. Only once it is well gone do I stand the general alert down. Time goes past piece by piece, and it is soon late at night. I am sound asleep when a series of slight tremors wakes me. In fact, since transmigrating as a lord, I have always been extremely sensitive to movement, because I now carry responsibility for keeping an entire city's people alive, and I cannot afford to be careless about anything. I dress and walk out fast and go up the gangway toward the observation tower. There is no light anywhere on tomorrow, with every searchlight and every deck lamp off, which is my arrangement because in the dark a mobile city's lights pull in enemies, whether monster or human. The lights are off and there is still a group of combat personnel patrolling the deck and a helmsman still standing by in the cockpit. Reaching the tower, I am surprised to find Imha still awake. The sound is coming from the northeast, about 2/3 of a mile out, and it is probably a big one, she says, handing me the binoculars. I nod and take them and look northeast. That outline is very large, better than 100 feet high, with one large light spot and dozens of small ones on it. I stop for a second and then I have it. That is clearly a mobile city, and the large spot is its searchlight and the small ones are its lamps. Should we prepare for battle now, I murmur? And no, the distance is too short, and it is too late to get every combat person in place. Then I put my mouth to the speaking tube and ask whether Dang Bin is there. A Bake's voice comes back saying that Dang Bin is asleep and asking whether there is a situation and calling me Hyung. Activate the city camouflage immediately, I tell him softly. Understood, he says. As it activates, tomorrow blends into the surroundings instantly. The next second, the other party's searchlight sweeps over us, and all it lights up is a patch of old buildings. This thing is genuinely useful, I say to myself. That is twice the city camouflage has pulled this city out of a disaster. While I am busy feeling fortunate, I look them over. Finding nothing ahead of it, that mobile city does not pay much attention and turns and moves into another street nearby. And through the binoculars, by the light on its own deck, I get a clear look at it. That city is very clearly driven by goblins. At this moment, I cannot find words for what is in my head. On that deck, goblins are working busily in a well-trained uniform way. Combat captains, lookouts, helmsmen, mechanics, gunners, and every professional role a mobile city ought to have. That goblin city has all of them. It also carries regular cannons and heavy machine guns and level 1 city armor, and appears to have upgraded a series of city accessories. On the deck, goblins carrying rifles and rocket launchers start patrolling under their combat captains. And near the city there are goblin convoys circling. That monster city is surprisingly well organized. I wipe the sweat off my forehead. Goblins are too absurd, flying helicopters and driving mobile cities, and if this trend continues, they will be piloting giant war machines next. Not long after, the goblin city gradually moves away, and once I have confirmed the threat is gone, I order the camouflage shut down. Useful as it is, it eats a great deal of energy, and leaving it on until dawn would drain us. By now, a great many people aboard have been woken by the commotion, and learning that a monster mobile city has just gone past, every one of them stops. How is that possible, one says, when goblins are the weakest level 1 monsters there are? Another says that a thing like that is terrifying and asks whether I am joking. I wave a hand and signal everyone to settle. Actually, I tell them softly, there is no need to be that surprised. After all, this world no longer belongs to humans. When I wake again, it is morning, and I look at my watch and it is 5:30. If nothing has gone wrong, the 2 convoys I sent out should be back by now, I think, and I wonder what they have brought. And I cannot help feeling uneasy about it, because an off-road vehicle is equivalent to 250 units of iron ore. With the heavy machine gun and rocket launcher and assault rifles mounted on it, the starting cost runs 600, and there are 3 people aboard each one. If anything happens to a vehicle, it is an enormous loss. Fortunately, to my relief, about 10 minutes later, both convoys come back one after another with their respective news. First, the first convoy, whose members report finding a survivor community of considerable size. This community is called Firefly, one of them says, calling me Hyung, and adds that the people there mistook them for a survival convoy and originally intended to give them supplies, and they politely declined. They would actually give supplies to outsiders, old Joe says, surprised, and says this Firefly community sounds pretty good. I nod slowly at it. There is infighting, and there is mutual aid. That is the apocalypse. They also notice the community only holds ordinary firearms. Another member adds, and says they were very interested in our assault rifles and rocket launchers, and even asked whether we had any intention of selling. Perhaps we can cooperate with them, I reply, providing firearms and Gale rocket launcher processing to the Firefly community and earning crystal coins and iron ore off it. I have never thought little of a small gain, though I am a little surprised that the first convoy stumbled straight into the largest survivor community in the city. As for the second convoy, I noticed their off-road vehicle carries a great many bullet holes and very obviously took fire. And what they bring back is explosive. On their way to the city center, they unexpectedly ran into the Scarlet Hound out on the outskirts. That predatory city immediately started strafing them with the heavy machine guns on its deck and mobilized multiple cannons to shell them. Seeing the convoy gradually pulling clear, it simply lowered a convoy of its own on a lift platform and chased them like a madman. The chase ran a long time before it ended. With the delay in the fuel it cost, the second convoy waited up and ultimately abandoned the plan to explore the center. They picked a hidden street to spend the night and hurried back at dawn. I let a breath out and clap them on the shoulders and tell them it is good everyone is safe and that running out of fuel does not matter. Bear in mind that a convoy is 2 off-road vehicles and 6 people, and losing the lot would genuinely have me coughing blood. And at the same time I sigh over it. I did not expect the Scarlet Hound to come here as well, and truly, the ones who come are never the good ones. Then I wonder why that predatory city would come here, and thinking a while, I understand quickly. The city ruins are the central area of the Wasteland area, and were a city once, so a great deal is left behind in them, and a great many convoys and mobile cities come. So as a hunter, the Scarlet Hound naturally followed the prey. I estimate the current gap between us. Tomorrow now carries a level 1 cannon and a convoy equipped with Gale rocket launchers. That gives it a fighting chance against that predatory city, and at minimum it will not simply run the way it did last time. And the gap in the number of cannons is too large, since the Scarlet Hound carries twice as many as we do, which is an overwhelming advantage in itself. Worse, tomorrow's best weapon is running out of ammunition, because since the attack on Grossmine there are 3 frost cannon rounds left, and none of them replenished. I shake my head at it, and for a moment I entertain the idea of simply leaving these ruins and going straight for the giant forest. Then Ha's voice comes down from the lookout tower. "Attention," she calls. "A mobile city is heading toward us from 2 miles northeast." What? My expression changes and I do not stop to think and shout it out immediately. "All combat personnel take your positions and ordinary residents get to the shelters now." Then I run for the tower. The moment I have the binoculars up, I see it clearly. It is the Scarlet Hound. Looking at that predatory city, Imha's face has gone pale, and she is biting her lip hard with her eyes fixed directly on it. The newcomers who were Roland Fortress residents have gone pale as well. In under a few days, their enemy has arrived in front of them. The Scarlet Hound has clearly seen us as well, and it starts slowly accelerating and puts out 2 short blasts and 2 long. You are now the prey. I read its whistle language and cannot help sneering at it. Then let us see who is the prey and who is the hunter. On the deck, old Zhu takes his men to their positions fast in front of the cannons and heavy machine guns. In front of the frost cannon, Yang Moon wipes his forehead after loading the shell, gives a thumbs up, and starts calculating the enemy's distance and the wind and the humidity. In the cockpit, Dang Bin and Abeg run through a series of operations with grave faces. On the street, both convoys are moving fast, escorting tomorrow on either side. In the city ruins, 2 steel behemoths advance slowly on each other, their heavy treads crushing concrete, immense steam and thick smoke coming off their exhaust valves. 1,600 yards, 1,500, 1,400, Imha reports rapidly from the tower. Target approaching, prepare to fire. Tomorrow fires first. The sharp whistle of shells tearing air breaks the quiet of the wasteland. 4 ordinary cannons firing at once, their shells streaking across the sky and landing near the Scarlet Hound. At the same moment, the enemy opens fire. Shells burst around both sides with violent whistling in front of them. The shockwaves peel outer steel plate off both cities. Flame comes up, smoke rolls. The Scarlet Hound has 8 ordinary cannons, so a head-on exchange is far too disadvantageous. I decide immediately. I tell Dang Bin to begin evasive maneuvers. Evasive maneuvers means a tactical movement where a mobile city uses engine power, track and wheel steering, and adjustment of its center of gravity to slip enemy fire or to take a favorable position first. Given how massive a city is and how badly it turns, it demands precise prejudgment and engineering coordination, which is exactly why a helmsman matters as much as he does. Sharp track turns, serpentine propulsion, tilting the center of gravity, and every one of those severely tests a helmsman's hands and his judgment. And out here, evasive maneuvers carry an exceptionally elegant name, the Dance of Steel. As another volley comes in, Dang Bin pulls the control lever down hard and twists the helm. In one moment, tomorrow's starboard track locks, and its port track drives at full speed, and the entire city drifts sideways with a piercing metallic shriek, and slips several shells by an appalling margin. We succeeded, Abek says, watching the explosions land one after another behind us. Dang Bin feels no joy at all in that moment, and instead is covered in cold sweat with his teeth clenched. Since taking the helm, he has always held on to a sliver of luck. Lucky that his driving talent ran high, lucky that a better helmsman might replace him one day, lucky that the road ahead might be smooth. It is not until this moment that he properly understands what a helmsman is responsible for. The direction of an entire city sits in your hands, and every person aboard trusts you with it, and what you are actually holding is the life of every one of them. Lost in that, he takes a deep breath and his eyes gradually settle. Continue evasive maneuvers. The 2 cities work through the ruins using broken buildings as cover and firing alternately, with the Scarlet Hound accelerating and pursuing relentlessly. It is trying to close the distance for a duel, I realize. A duel is a simple, brutal tactic peculiar to mobile cities. 2 of them exchange fire frantically at extremely close range with the heavy machine guns and cannons on their decks, while the combat personnel on both decks jump across and board the enemy and fight for their lives with firearms and melee weapons. That kind of fighting is extremely fierce and often decides a winner inside a minute, which is why it is often called the Braves game. I naturally will not duel the Scarlet Hound, since the enemy holds 8 ordinary cannons, 14 ordinary heavy machine guns, 2 level 1 cannons, 96 combat personnel, which is an absolute advantage at that range. At my order, Tomorrow accelerates as well, and the 2 cities hold a constant distance. A few minutes later, Imha's voice comes down again, saying the enemy convoy has caught up and to prepare to engage. By now, the Scarlet Hound's 4 convoys have run in from a distance, with their members holding firearms and rocket launchers, leaning against their car windows casually with a sneer on their mouths. In a fight between 2 mobile cities, both sides generally hold a certain distance and shell each other while running evasive maneuvers. That situation stays deadlocked a long time, and at that point the convoys become crucial. Both cities send convoys toward the enemy hull. A convoy usually carries heavy machine guns and rocket launchers and rifles, and its primary objective is destroying the enemy city's tracks or tires and rendering it immobile. Once a city cannot move it, cannot run evasive maneuvers, and may stop dead. And after that, the enemy's shells start landing accurately on its deck. New convoy members have always wondered why, if they can get that close, they do not concentrate fire on the enemy cockpit, or fuel compartment, or ammunition bay. The reason is simple. The fuel compartment and the ammunition bay sit deep in a city's core and are simply not reachable. The cockpit is at the very front of the deck and is protected by extremely thick armor. Furthermore, a city's deck stands a full 16 to 20 feet off the ground, and even leaning out of a window with the gun angled up, a man may not hit it. And at that range, the convoy is standing under the enemy's heavy machine guns, which is extremely dangerous. Our first and second convoys engage theirs. Multiple off-road vehicles weave through streets and alleys, chasing and firing. We are outnumbered, and our vehicles are level 1 with level 1 rocket launchers on them, while theirs are only ordinary class. In a close-range exchange, the second convoy takes minor losses while one of the Scarlet Hound's vehicles gets flipped by a rocket. On the deck, young Mun is calculating distance intently. Only 2 shells left, he murmurs, and he has to hit. He has to hit. Landing a decisive blow means relying on the frost cannon, and the firing authority currently sits in his hands. A few minutes ago, he fired it, and the Scarlet Hound evaded that shell, and it hit a building on its left and turned the thing into an ice sculpture instantly. That error put a tremor through him. And what puts a colder sweat on him is that the Scarlet Hound's 2 level 1 cannons are already ready, and their 2 gunners are calculating distance as well. He knows perfectly well what that means. They want a fatal blow too. Both level 1 cannons fire at once with a pair of roars. For a moment I seem to see both shells clearly, arcing gracefully, swooping down at Tomorrow's deck. Time appears to slow, and I feel as though I can hear death breathing next to my ear. The next second, both shells burst near us, reducing the buildings where they land to dust. Flame going straight up, a violent shockwave sweeping out. One of them lands extremely close to our left side, and the shockwave, loaded with building debris and fire, swallows the left armor and the tire tracks. That was close. My forehead is soaked. Given the power of that artillery, a direct hit finishes this city. Report, Dang Bin's voice comes down the tube. The tire tracks are severely damaged, and we are expected to stop and lose mobility soon. And Tomorrow's speed does start dropping. In the streets, the convoy fight goes on. Relying on the Gale rocket launcher, the second convoy takes out another vehicle. Meanwhile, the enemy uses their numbers and concentrates fire and destroys one vehicle from the first convoy. And then an enemy convoy drives straight at a slowing Tomorrow. What is waiting for them is our heavy machine guns and the Falcon assault rifles and Gale rocket launchers of the combat personnel on the deck. Do not let them get near the wheels and the tracks, Old Jew roars, pulling his trigger. A dense barrage pours down onto that convoy, and the leading vehicle is riddled instantly and goes up in a ball of fire. The other 2 turn and hide in a nearby street and drop out of sight. Old Jew and his companions exchange a look, and a few drops of sweat come off their foreheads. This is bad. Exactly as they expect, half a minute later, 2 vehicles come out of a corner ahead, with their combat personnel already leaning out of the windows holding rocket launchers. Under suppressing fire from Old Jew and the others, one of them is shot through fast, loses control, and crashes into a shop on the side of the street. The other keeps swerving left and right and gets closer and closer, and its man already has a finger on the trigger. At that moment, a series of shots goes off, and the driver is dead where he sits, and the vehicle loses control and rolls over on the street. Old Jew and the others come down off the fright and nod repeatedly. "Well done," he says, unable to help himself, and asks which good lad fired that and says the man deserves a major commendation. Then he turns his head and finds it was me. I put the gun away and nod lightly at them and tell them, in a low voice, to keep fighting. A few seconds later, the Scarlet Hound puts another volley in, and overwhelming explosions sweep around us, and Tomorrow answers and lands several shells on it. On the street, both convoys are in a fierce fight. The battle between the 2 cities has gone to its peak. Things are looking very bad. Dangbin says urgently, calling me Hyung. With the left tire tracks damaged, our movement is severely impaired, and he estimates we lose mobility very soon. Before he has finished the report, both level 1 cannons fire at once. The instant the shells clear the barrels, he forces an evasive maneuver, and Tomorrow makes a sharp right turn and scrapes past several buildings on its right, and tears countless pieces of house off them. The next second, 2 violent explosions land behind us. "Well done, Dang Bin," I say silently. Then I look one direction and roar hoarsely for Yang Mun. As though in answer, the frost cannon fires. That shell bursts below the Scarlet Hound's left side and instantly freezes part of its tracks and tires. And traveling at speed, it loses balance immediately and crashes head-on into a nearby building. Seizing an opening that rare, our ordinary cannons fire one after another, and shells burst on it in quick succession. Then the Scarlet Hound suddenly fires its cannons in every direction at once, and towering smoke spreads out and swallows the whole area it occupies. "Smoke shells," I say, my expression shifting slightly. A combat man asks whether we should continue attacking. I think about it and shake my head fast. I genuinely want to expand the result, and the enemy is difficult to hit under that cover, and our left tire tracks are severely damaged and we lose mobility soon. So I give the order, retreat first. A few minutes later, the Scarlet Hound comes slowly out of the smoke, and by then tomorrow is nowhere to be found. Having reached a remote spot, I have tomorrow stop. The left tire tracks are damaged badly enough now that even the most basic movement is difficult. In urban fighting, mobility is everything for a mobile city, and a city that cannot move is a sitting target. Overall, the losses sit inside what I can accept, and I am even somewhat surprised, because tomorrow actually traded blows with a predatory city like that one, and came out standing. Thinking back on it, the fear arrives afterward. Those level 1 cannons are too powerful, and a single hit generally disables an ordinary level 1 city, and there were several moments in that fight where we were very nearly hit. Had one landed, every resource I painstakingly accumulated, every talent I gathered, and tomorrow's entire future would have gone in a second. That is what war between mobile cities is. Cruel and cold-blooded and completely unreasonable. Survival is war, I think, and everyone has to go all out. I tallied the losses. 52 shells gone, and better than 1,200 heavy machine gun and assault rifle rounds gone. Personnel casualties are not many, and the annihilation of the first convoy is somewhat heartbreaking. After an assessment, Immu gives me his answer. He can have it fixed by morning, he says, and if I can give him more manpower, it goes faster. All right, I nod, and he gets as many people as he needs. And the Scarlet Hound's losses are also considerable. Using the advantage of level 1 vehicles and level 1 rocket launchers, our convoy destroyed better than half of theirs. Multiple parts of that city are damaged, and especially after the frost cannon hit, its tracks and tires are badly hurt, and while it was incapacitated, 2 rounds of shells landed on its deck. Presumably its personnel casualties are extremely severe as well. So what do we do next? Old Jew says softly down in the lower furnace room, feeding a body slowly into it. Do we keep attacking the Scarlet Hound? Or do we leave? Space on a mobile city is limited, so the dead usually go into the furnace to burn, and there are no graves. At this hour, ordinary residents are cleaning the deck, Immu is leading people through emergency repairs, and logistics staff are treating the wounded. I watch the sparks jumping in the furnace and say nothing. This battle burned a large number of bullets and shells, and it cost us people, and choosing to leave makes every one of those sacrifices pointless. And the Scarlet Hound recovers later and goes back to hunting. And continuing the fight means that while tomorrow currently has the strength for it, its condition is not good and the outcome is genuinely uncertain. Then something arrives all at once. I have it. So it sounds like you have a plan, Old Jew says, his eyes lighting up at whatever is on my face. I nod. We can find allies in this city and cooperate against the Scarlet Hound. Allies, he says, and asks whether I mean the mobile cities wandering the ruins, and then works something out and his face turns difficult. Never mind whether we can find a mobile city overnight, he says, because even if we do, they may well not agree, and he asks whether I could unconditionally trust an unfamiliar mobile city. I smile and shake my head. No, he has misunderstood me, because the allies I mean are not mobile cities. He makes a noise at that, and under a surprised stare I say it softly. Has he forgotten that our convoy found a survivor community in this city? That survivor community called Firefly holds better than 300 people, so their combat personnel are certainly not few, and they are extremely familiar with the city's terrain. If we cooperate with them, arm them with Falcon assault rifles and Gale rocket launchers, and let them use the buildings for a guerrilla war, then we can hunt the Scarlet Hound down. And do not forget they are very interested in our rifles and rocket launchers, which is exactly the condition we can offer. Not only that, we can supply Blue Heart potato seed, and a community like that would certainly want level 1 crop seed. And the morning light wheat in the fields is very nearly ripe, so we can supply that seed as well. His eyes brighten as he listens. Yes, he says, let us do as I say. Half an hour later, we arrive at the Firefly community in the off-road vehicle. It sits in a residential complex with high walls and guard posts built along it, with cultivated fields inside and children playing in the open ground. Learning that a mobile city lord has arrived, the community leader, a man they call Scarface, puts his work down and comes out quickly to meet us. They might be here to trade, his deputy says excitedly, a young man in a headscarf. Level 1 assault rifles, level 1 rocket launchers, and even a level 1 off-road vehicle. And getting even one of those would raise the community's strength enormously. Both sides meet at the entrance soon after. The lord in front of them is a steady young man in his mid-20s. On his left is a middle-aged man who is evidently his deputy, and on his right a bespectacled young man in a wheelchair. Behind them are 2 companions carrying sacks in a level 1 off-road vehicle parked beyond. You are Lee Yoop, Scarface says, welcoming the group in, and says their community holds about 300 people in total. Though a third of them are elderly or weak, or sick or children, they are trying their best to take good care of them. There are many monsters in the city, and the central area is worse, he says softly. They hold only ordinary firearms with no heavy machine guns and no artillery, which makes going out for supplies daily extremely difficult. So learning that we have level 1 firearms and level 1 rocket launchers and even a level 1 vehicle, he humbly asks. Before he finishes, I wave a hand gently. Everything he has named, I can give him. The two companions behind me open the sacks and take out what is inside, and both faces freeze the moment they see it. Falcon assault rifles, Gale rocket launchers, Blue Heart potato seed, Morning Light wheat seed, instant cup noodles. Every one of those level 1 items laid out in front of them, and every one of them a thing they have wanted badly. And if those are not enough, I tell them softly, the vehicle outside can also be theirs. Scarface comes out of it first, gestures his deputy to settle, and looks up at me. So what do you want us to do, he asks, hesitating over it. I look into his eyes and say it calmly. Cooperate with us against a predatory city. His expression freezes and the deputy's eyes go wide. For a moment, a series of pictures runs through both of them. In the city ruins, they and their companions firing rifles at a thing built like a steel animal, and doing very nearly nothing to it. Its heavy machine guns tearing their bodies apart and its artillery blowing whatever they hide behind into dust. And when the cover nearby is entirely gone and they are forced to run through open streets, its convoy racing across and killing them off as easily as stray dogs. Thinking about it, the deputy's body starts shaking without his permission. Scarface thinks a long time and in the end shakes his head. Just these are not enough for us to risk our lives, he says in a low voice. Then what else do you want, old Jew asks. Immu adjusts his glasses and answers for them. He guesses they want that mobile city as their new home. Scarface nods and spits hard. Exactly. With a mobile city, he could put everybody in the community aboard and lead these ruins for good. They could farm and raise livestock on it and become self-sufficient. They could gather resources out in the wild and make it stronger. They could feel safer every single time they woke up. I see, I say, nodding. What Scarface wants is reasonable. Tomorrow wants to destroy the Scarlet Hound outright and take its resources and its production workshop projects. And the Firefly community wants to use this chance to acquire a predatory city and make it their new home. Because without tomorrow's help, a single community does not have the strength to take one. It is exactly as the old line says. Only genuine mutual benefit makes an alliance last. After discussion, the two sides reach an agreement. Once the Scarlet Hound is taken, every level 1 and above item aboard it and every level 1 and above project in its production workshop belongs to Tomorrow. The Firefly community receives the entire mobile city, and Tomorrow additionally processes off-road vehicles and Falcon assault rifles and Gale rocket launchers for them. And resources like iron ore and coal aboard it split evenly between us. Then it is settled, I say, and he says it is a deal and we shake hands. So when do I plan to move, he asks, and I tell him tomorrow. He smiles at the answer and says tomorrow, and that he wishes it were tonight, and no, right now. It is the next morning when I open my eyes. I dress fast and walk out. After a night of urgent work by Immu and his team, tomorrow's tracks and tires are fixed. Last night I moved another batch of ordinary residents across into combat personnel, and a fresh batch of bullets and shells has been replenished. I give the order and everyone assembles quickly, and I nod and wave a hand. Let us go. We are hunting the Scarlet Hound. When the Scarlet Hound's lookout sees Tomorrow come into view, he does not believe his own eyes. After a second look confirms he has not misread it, he shouts down the speaking tube that Tomorrow is spotted, 2 miles to the northwest. 2 minutes later, its convoys come up to the ground, one at a time on lift platforms, and set off fast, and the Scarlet Hound itself starts accelerating. Target is 2,000 yards out, 1900, 1800. Manhwa reports rapidly from the lookout tower. I stand beside her watching that city through binoculars. It is about to enter the ambush zone, I murmur, and the Firefly people should be ready by now as well. 1,000 feet ahead of the Scarlet Hound, Scarface has his companions laid up in the buildings and the alley corners on both sides of the street. What they are holding is the Gale rocket launchers and Falcon assault rifles Tomorrow supplied. Listen up, he tells them slowly. When the target comes in, the men with rocket launchers work the tires and the tracks, and the men with assault rifles shoot the machine gunners and the gunners. This is our chance to acquire a mobile city, he says, spitting on the ground, and nobody is going to ruin it. The moment the Scarlet Hound enters the zone, Scarface and his people put their heads out of building windows and doorways and street corners and pull triggers. Overwhelming fire sweeps that city in one instant. Several combat personnel and machine gunners and gunners on its deck are dead before they have registered anything. Multiple explosions land on its side tires and tracks and its speed starts dropping. This tactic really works, and watching it I am delighted. Unlike the open wild, in a ruined city you can arm people who know the terrain and run a guerrilla war against a mobile city, and that turns out to be genuinely workable. After the initial shock, the Scarlet Hound reacts fast, sending fresh combat personnel to take over the heavy machine guns and cannons and firing wildly into the buildings on both sides. Scarface and his people were well prepared and pull back from their original positions the moment a strike lands. Concrete and rebar give them cover and heavy machine gun rounds cannot get through it. Cannons are another matter, and shells burst one after another inside the buildings, and several men who cannot withdraw fast enough go up with them. While the Scarlet Hound is pinned like that, tomorrow's cannons work it continuously. Its convoy is firmly held by our second convoy, and with fire support from the Firefly people all around them, breaking clear becomes harder still. From the opening moment, the battle develops in a direction extremely unfavorable to that city. It tries to turn the situation and finds itself in quicksand. On one side, Tomorrow is firing at it from a distance. On the other side, enemies it cannot see are working it from every direction out of the buildings. Its tires and tracks are severely damaged, and combat personnel on the deck keep dropping. Those survivors running a guerrilla war are far more troublesome than we are. Another rocket finishes its tracks and tires completely and brings it to a stop in the street, and a volley from Tomorrow lands on it head-on. Under sweeping fire from every direction, the enemies aboard drop one after another, and the survivors pull off the deck into the rooms inside, and keep resisting stubbornly. The battle finally ends better than an hour later. Under an assault from Tomorrow and Firefly together, the Scarlet Hound's lord and his trusted men and his combat personnel are all dead. Beyond them, there are 20 or 30 other survivors aboard, and all of them are slaves, everyone emaciated and haggard. By their account, they were taken by the Scarlet Hound from other mobile cities and towns, and as slaves they drew very little fresh water and food daily and worked day and night. Firefly and I both choose to let them live. Then I eagerly tally what that city has given up. 15,674 crystal coins, 2,452 units of iron ore, 1,623 of coal, 782 of fuel, 1,052 of wood, 534 of gunpowder, 2 level 1 lava cannons, and more surprising than any of it, a level 2 item blueprint. The panel calls it a Black Hawk helicopter at item level 2, whose additional effects raise flight speed by 15% and cut fuel consumption by 20%. It crafts at 200 units of level 2 iron ore and 50 units of level 2 precision flight vehicle parts. I did not expect conquering a mobile city to yield this much, I murmur. No wonder there are so many predatory cities, because gains like this are genuinely enviable. Then I go into the Scarlet Hound's production workshop, eager about it. Being a predatory city, it holds excellent level 1 and common projects, and after careful selection I take better than half of what is in there. Among the most valuable is the level 1 city building water tower, upgrading at 300 iron ore and storing 6,000 units of fresh water. The level 1 item smoke bomb, crafting at 5 iron ore and putting a large volume of smoke into a target area. The level 1 bulletproof vest, at 20 units of cloth, which effectively defends against level 1 and lower rounds. Level 1 whole wheat biscuits, at half a unit of flour, with an additional effect of 10% more nutrition. The level 1 city accessory mining mechanical arm, at 300 iron ore, which greatly increases mining efficiency. And the level 1 cannon, the lava cannon, at 300 units of lava iron ore and 1 lava crystal, which is incredibly powerful. There are good things among the common projects as well, iced tea and refrigerators and electric fans. The rest are projects Tomorrow already holds, so I leave them for Firefly. Furthermore, the Scarlet Hound originally carried 2 lava cannons, 1 destroyed in the fighting and 1 intact, with 5 lava shells left in the warehouse, which is an unexpected pleasure. And Tomorrow has now unlocked the lava cannon project, so I can make more of them as long as I find lava ore later. The remaining crystal coins and iron ore and other resources split evenly between us. This was a pleasant collaboration, I tell Scarface, shaking his hand and passing him the Scarlet Hound's lord's hand ring. And as agreed, this mobile city is now his. Over the next stretch, he leads his people through cleaning it and manufacturing new track tires in the production workshop, replacing them with the mechanical arms on the deck. The Firefly people pack their belongings and walk their families over to the Scarlet Hound. They ride the lift platform up onto the deck, looking at the new home they will live in with obvious excitement. As for the slaves aboard, Firefly chooses to take them in, and they rename the Scarlet Hound the Firefly. I keep my end, and custom-produce Gale rocket launchers and Falcon assault rifles, and level 1 off-road vehicles, and instant cup noodles and whole wheat biscuits for them. Hand over a bag of Blue Heart potato seed and Morning Light wheat seed on top. Watching them work on the Firefly, I stroke my chin thoughtfully. Set beside where I started, their starting point is quite good, with 8 ordinary cannons, 14 heavy machine guns, level 1 off-road vehicles, Falcon assault rifles, Gale rocket launchers, and 1 level 1 cannon, and 2 level 1 crops. Several cannons and heavy machine guns took damage in the fighting, and the whole city is somewhat battered, and repairs bring it back. Firefly has seized this chance successfully, and how they develop from here is their business. By the way, I have to remind him, I say that the entire Wasteland area is destroyed in a little over 2 months, and they must leave as soon as possible. To the west is Mountain Range, to the east the mobile maze, to the north a large freshwater lake, and to the south canyons and swamps. He hesitates a moment and then nods and thanks me for the reminder. After goodbyes, I take everyone back aboard and we depart, collecting spoils, arranging care for the wounded, sending Immu to check tomorrow for damage, and for a while I am busy past the point of thinking. Somewhere in it I remember something and very nearly slap my own head. I almost forgot about that. I have been so busy fighting the Scarlet Hound that I forgot to check the intelligence. Opening the panel, the hourglass is already turned into a check mark and the cooldown reads complete. The next refresh reads 2 days, 15 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, and the quantity reads 5. This one took a bit longer, I muse, so the quality should be considerably better, and there may even be epic in it. Tomorrow cannot simply wait out those 2 or 3 days and has to find something to do. And I am hoping this refresh carries something about these city ruins, because even now I have not worked out what is in here. Currently I know exactly 2 things. Goblin mobile cities are wandering the ruins, and the Firefly people said the city center is very dangerous, and the first thing this city has to do is digest the results of that battle and rebuild its combat strength. Because being unable to establish what is in these ruins makes them genuinely dangerous, and there may well be other predatory cities in here too. The inventory list reads out in front of me. 2,275 units of iron ore, and 549 of wood, 936 of coal, 664 of fuel, 157 of saltpeter, 70 of gunpowder, 2,152 units of fresh water, 346 units of copper ore, 197 of silver ore, 90 of gold ore, 18,537 crystal coins, 4 ordinary cannons, 8 heavy machine guns, 6 pistols, 10 Falcon assault rifles, 6 Gale rocket launchers, 2 level 1 cannons, and 2 level 1 off-road vehicles, 13 ordinary shells, better than 700 heavy machine gun rounds, 351 Falcon rounds, 8 rocket-propelled grenades, and 5 lava shells. I look at it and nod at old Jew and tell him he has worked hard and should go and rest properly. Honestly, seeing it laid out, the quantity surprises me, because without my noticing it happen, tomorrow has become wealthy. These resources are very nearly the scale of the survivor town. I nod at it with some confidence, because as long as there are resources, what a battle burns can be replenished and this city recovers its strength fast. After some thought, I decide to build 2 level 1 off-road vehicles first, and crew them and fit them with Gale rocket launchers and Falcon assault rifles. In order to rebuild the first convoy, explained itself since it amounts to tomorrow's forward defense. As long as a convoy exists, it can harass an enemy city and block an enemy convoy's assault. Outnumbered as we were at the start of that battle, our convoy with level 1 vehicles and level 1 rocket launchers showed a considerable advantage and destroyed a good many enemy vehicles. Once the vehicles are built, I put 6 combat personnel into them with Gale rocket launchers and Falcon assault rifles. With casualties among the combat personnel themselves, plus those 6 now moved into the first convoy. What is left aboard is thin. I sigh and draw 15 more people out of the ordinary residents to fill it. That leaves tomorrow short-handed for daily work, and there is no other way to do it. Next, I spend another 200 units of iron ore making 40 level 1 smoke shells. It has to be said that shell is genuinely too practical since it covers a convoy's advance and covers a city's retreat equally well. After that, to rebuild combat strength, I additionally build 2 more ordinary cannons, because in a fight between mobile cities, the volley fire of ordinary cannons counts as the primary means of attack. Level 1 cannons are incredibly powerful, and their manufacturing conditions are stringent, and a city typically holds 2 or 3 at most. A city in a battle often burns dozens or even hundreds of shells, and the ammunition it eats is beyond counting. 2 mobile cities in competition are not only competing on the quality of their people and how well they coordinate, they are competing on resources. Then I spend another 500 units of iron ore replenishing a round of shells and bullets and rocket-propelled grenades. Looking at the combat supplies laid out neatly in front of me, my mood loosens a little, because now, even if a fresh predatory city comes at us, tomorrow can meet it calmly. Then I run the arithmetic and shake my head gently. All told, that cost a full 1,600 units of iron ore, and every unit of it went on replenishing combat resources. And it was necessary because in an apocalypse, survival comes before everything. In the city ruins, tomorrow moves slowly forward. On the deck, Mu and his crew are busy inspecting and repairing parts of the city. In the middle section, Old Jew is urgently training the newly enlisted combat personnel, and I am in the lookout tower reading the surroundings through binoculars. We are advancing slowly toward the city center now, and running into a great deal on the way. 2 survivor convoys carefully holding their distance. Several bounty hunters on motorcycles or in off-road vehicles trying their luck. 1 mobile city that appears to have only just set sail, short on people and artillery and heavy machine guns. And boarmen and snakemen and goblins and other monsters working the streets and alleys. This part of the ruins is particularly busy, because it is not only rich in resources but sits in the central area of the Wasteland area, so very nearly any faction moving through comes here. I have not fully worked out what is in these ruins, and I decide to stay a while longer anyway, because on balance the place still offers a great deal. Gas stations are everywhere and fuel can be collected out of them. Rebar out of abandoned vehicles and buildings collects and melts back into iron ore. In a vehicle dealership, it may be possible to find usable motorcycles and cars. And out here, a vehicle is a very practical thing to own. In a textile factory, there might be hundreds or thousands of pieces of cloth. By the way, I wonder, how many years has this wasteland lasted? What was this world like before the Great Cataclysm? Is its cultural history anything like Blue Star's? Is this planet the same size as Blue Star? How many continents does it have? What proportion of it is ocean? Every one of those is a question mark I can only uncover slowly. To investigate the city, I dispatched both convoys under my command, with the newly rebuilt first team exploring the periphery and the second exploring the center. Around evening, both come back with their news. The first found a survivor community called Friday with a population of about 200, and the second brings back what I most wanted: out of the city center.